Bill Dana. The president says he is going to take a ton of questions about Iran in this upcoming news conference. And that is going to be very important because right now there are multiple versions of this memorandum of understanding swirling online right now, including those leaked by Iran. One controversial piece I want to talk about quickly, Bloomberg is reporting, is a line in this where it says the U.S. will release and fully make available to Iran all frozen or restricted funds and assets. So we want to know more about that. When does that happen? What's the incentivization for that? Another part is where, according to Bloomberg, once again, the U.S. along with regional allies will develop or create this $300 billion rehabilitation and development fund for Iran. It's supposed to be implemented within 60 days. It does not say, Bill and Dana, who's going to finance this. But here is the president again doubling down and saying that America has nothing to do with this. Watch.
We are not investing in it, and we do not have a fund.
Are you asking Gulf countries?
No, I'm not. I'm not. If they do it, fine. But I would say they won't be doing it for a while until they find out the behavior. It's a behavior thing. But we are not investing. That's a false story that got picked up incorrectly from a statement that was pretty well made.
The Wall Street Journal is also reporting this as part of this agreement. The U.S. will allow Iran to immediately begin selling oil and fuel under the deal to end the war, offering Tehran an early financial incentive to wind down the conflict. And if that is true, Bill and Dana, it's going to concern a lot of Iran hawks out there. Last night on The Five, Vice President J.D. Vance explaining why the White House hasn't released the full text yet.
So there's some diplomatic procedure at work here where the Qataris and the Pakistanis have been mediating this entire negotiation with the Iranians. And they've asked us effectively to sequence the way that we roll this out. I frankly don't understand it. We'd be happy to release the agreement today or tomorrow. We may release it as late as Friday.
Iran says it will begin the second stage of negotiations on Friday here in Switzerland for more detailed talks on its nuclear program. The president says the U.S. is going to destroy Iran's enriched uranium that's buried in the mountains at a later date. Right now, we are running behind schedule. The president is supposed to meet with Prime Minister Modi of India, and then he says around the 4 o'clock hour local time, which is the 10 o'clock hour your time, he's going to hold that press conference. And hopefully we'll finally get some new details about this deal.
Yo, what is up? This morning, it is a beautiful morning here in Florida. How about you? What's happening? How is your day going? We are going to be live for a President Trump news conference. It's going to be a banger. There's a lot going on in the world. We're 48 hours away from Donald Trump signing a peace agreement. President's press conference has been pushed back just a little bit, a little bump. And so we have a bit of a show to roll into as we have commentary today on so many different moving pieces. But yeah, we're very much looking forward to Donald Trump saying, I'm going to do a press conference in 45 minutes from France. Okay. Donald Trump just buzzed. All right. How about the live Donald Trump? How about the live Donald Trump post for the day? We'll be doing a press conference in 45 minutes from France. And then I'm going to be heading to Versailles for dinner with the French and other European leaders and back home tonight. The trip is a great success, but mostly I wanted people to talk about the fact that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. The Strait of Hormuz will be immediately opened. Great numbers in all categories in the U.S. economy, and the people working today will have the people working today than ever worked before. Okay. 19 trillion being invested in the United States factories. Okay, so Donald Trump saying that the press conference that was supposed to happen at 9 o'clock is now being pushed a little further. So we're just going to roll with it. This is a classic, we're just going to roll with it. And we have tons to talk about today. We also have, the acting labor secretary hopping on the program. And then Senator Ron Johnson, potentially. So, Kara, you better check and see if that's going to work. I don't know if that's going to work. We should reach out. I don't know why I didn't ask this earlier. Why don't we reach out to Bo Nickel and see if he did an interview yesterday. Why don't we see if he can hop on and talk about UFC at the White House? Let's do that. Do you have his contact information? We're just going to do this live on the show. Why not? There's too much going on. We'll do this live on the show. Hey, Alex, I know you got it, right? Yeah, okay. Let's see if Bo can pop on and just just like chat a little bit about UFC. It's fun to be able to. It's nice to be able to build the show live. It makes me feel like the olden days. Have we gotten too stodgy for our own good? We're gonna have a great show today anyway. It's June 17th, 2026. Trump is speaking live from the G7. Hillary backstabs Biden as the entire Biden, whatever that was, it's like, doesn't feel real. It feels like a fever dream. Just going back through and watching the clips of Joe Biden and then seeing Jill Biden's book sales confirming that the election was stolen, and then looking through into the vestige of the nightmare that is to come in 2028 for the Democrats. Gavin Newsom is in big trouble. Big trouble. We've been making a lot of phone calls in California. There are bad things that are about to happen to Gavin Newsom. And Kamala Harris popping off on it, cackling about it. She loves it. So is it going to be Kamala Harris versus JD Vance? Dude, JD Vance was on The View yesterday. So it's like JD Vance versus 6 streaking Kamalas. And he did great. He crushed it. JD Vance did like 12 different live interviews yesterday and was just shadowboxing it. Killing it, man. So we're going to cover all of it today. Again, my name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. You know where you're at. What's up? We got our blackout coffee. Look at this. Look at how full this coffee is right here. Look at how full this coffee cup is. You can see like top of the coffee. That is because we were amped and hyped and ready for the show. We're finally feeling good. We've been like a little under the weather, and then we've traveled, so that like puts us even more under the weather. Blackout coffee fills our cup. Blackout coffee keeps us rolling. Blackout coffee gives us the energy to go every single day. We don't need what Hunter Biden uses to get up and going in the morning. We don't need, I don't know. There's a lot of things that a lot of people take these days. I drink coffee. I get up. I spend time with my kids, get a little workout in, and that gets us pumped and going. And that's all we need for the day. Okay. That and some prayer. And then we're locked in. Blackout coffee is a critical part of that. You should join the Blackout Coffee Club. It's the move. You'll get rewards stacked. You'll get coffee delivered right to your door. And 250th American anniversary, lock in with an American company that makes American coffee right here in America, not too far from where we broadcast. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Use code Benny for 20% off your first order. That's blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Join the coffee club today. Okay. Hey, Alex, oh yeah, okay. Let me just see if Bo can come on. Hey, Alex, I'm connecting you right now with Bo. There you go. Just see if we can come. I was wanting to talk with him. I should have asked earlier. I was wanting to talk with him. We'll see. This is just how we go. This is just how we roll with the show. I want to roll into a couple of things. President Trump is labeled Barack Obama a bitch. That's the president's word. And said, I'm the boss at the G7. The G7 is obviously the biggest economies in the world getting together. They're in France right now. And he is upset about various Iran deal leaks. I'm not going to go in on speculation until the actual memorandum of understanding has been released. But just to give you a precursor of the attitude and the vibes that Donald Trump is rolling with right now. Here's Donald Trump. I'm the boss.
Hello, I'm the boss. How are you? Good, thank you. Okay.
Okay. I am the boss. Donald Trump at a press conference saying that Obama's a bitch. We do our best to have a family-friendly show here. My apologies. Sometimes when you quote the commander-in-chief, these are just the words that he uses. So here we go. Here's Donald Trump, just showing you kind of the attitude of President Trump these days. Go.
Hello, I'm the boss.
This is not the right clip. Hey guys. Hey Alex. Go for it.
1.7 billion and hundreds of millions of dollars. They tried to bribe their way out of it. And you know what the Iranians did? They laughed at Obama and they said he's a stupid son of a bitch. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So President Trump going to be probably throwing a heater today, and it's going to be, I think, quite entertaining. I have a little bit of entertainment That's been frustrating to me as I've watched it play out. And it's the entertainment of the Democrat Party and how their 2028 is shaping up. It's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a nightmare for them. And I don't know any other way to cut it other than watching the way that J.D. Vance moved yesterday and seeing the way the Democrat Party is moving versus J.D. Vance. I've never felt more optimistic. J.D. Vance yesterday gave a bit of a lecture to all of the broken pieces of the Trump coalition. And this is obviously very frustrating for me because I've worked with so many of these people. And the truth is I've traveled the country with Candace, and Charlie. I have worked with and for Tucker and Glenn Beck, and I worked for Andrew Breitbart, and I worked for and with a lot of these people. I consider them friends. I know we've received attacks from Mark Levin and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And the whole point is to fracture our movement and to atomize it into a million pieces. How does Trump win? Trump doesn't win with just the MAGA base, as much as I love the MAGA base. Trump built on his coalition and got more votes than he's ever received. He got nearly 10 million more votes in 2024 than he got in 2016. What happened? Well, he was impeached twice. They tried to throw him in prison for 400 years. They raided his house. They shot him in the head. In between 2016 to 2024, they did everything they could to kill the man, to ensure that Donald Trump got 0 votes. That he was dead, in fact, is what they wanted. But they did everything that they possibly could from an institutional standpoint to ensure that Trump got no votes. Trump added 10 million more votes because he was able to consolidate a movement around a message of America first, a promise of a government that will put our people first. I think that the Trump administration has been imperfect in deliverance of that promise, and we have used tough love in order to have tough conversations about where we should go without ever lighting ourselves on fire. By trying to understand that, the alternative would be to say that Kamala Harris should be ruling our nation. Or Gavin Newsom should be ruling our nation. More on that in a second. The only way that Trump wins is with that coalition together. And so that's what J.D. Vance tried to do yesterday. I want to play you this clip from J.D. He's on Megyn Kelly's show. Megyn has been pretty brutal to the president and the administration. Again, we're not going to sit here and try and flamethrower, drama monger, but it's a clip that I think you must watch. And you must see what J.D. Vance is trying to cautiously do is to pull back together sort of the energy of 2024 that was shattered into a million pieces over the Epstein op, which it was an op. We can get into that. And also the Iran war. And those niche issues or manipulated issues that spun so wildly out of the realm of reality, right? People just broke their brains. And I think Charlie getting murdered in the middle of all of it, I think just shattered the psyches of weak people. And so J.D. Vance is here as the adult in the room to attempt to try and put Humpty Dumpty back together again. It's very honorable. It's very neat to watch. The strategy here is what I think is probably the most important clip from the vice president yesterday. Let's go.
Right now, we have a very good deal for the American people. And importantly, we have a constituency right now that is saying that we're going to send boots on the ground. They want Donald Trump to send hundreds of thousands of ground troops into Iran. The best thing,
Those
we
are
need
Republicans.
people. But we need people to be pushing back from inside the tent.
Okay,
the frustration,
but some of us
I would
push back,
point.
and then we're told, and I quote, "Those who speak ill of Mark Levin are not MAGA."
Well, the president, as he does, is pushing back at a criticism of yours that he thought was unfair.
But not just me. I mean, a lot of the non-interventionalists.
But I talked to him last night, and I said, Mr. President, I'm going to go on Megyn Kelly's show, and I'm going to defend the administration's policies. He said, absolutely, I love that. Because, again,
good. Tell her he should do it next.
He engages, and he's going to criticize you when he agrees or disagrees with you.
I don't mind his
He's
criticism.
going to say nice things about you when he agrees with you. But that's what I actually love about the president. Is he's not viewing these debates from the outside. He's participating in them himself. And again, Megyn, the frustration that I've had with, the non-interventionist side has been that the attitude seems to be, we disagree with the president on this policy. Look, we can have that debate, but fine, okay? You disagree with the president on this particular policy. That doesn't mean you can give up on the entire enterprise.
Yeah, no,
and the reason,
I agree with
Megyn,
that.
the reason why neocons are so much more effective in politics than the people on the other side in our coalition is because they play the game. They get disappointed, they make their criticisms, and they go back and they live to fight another day. Right now, we need everybody who recognizes that this is a good deal for the American people and that we don't want, like John Podolitz is saying, hundreds of thousands of ground troops in Iran. Make your voice heard. This is where you've got to participate in the process. Disagree when you disagree, agree when you agree, but I don't like this idea of the president did something I didn't like, so I'm out.
Yeah.
I think it's a very immature way to approach the political process.
I agree with
and
you.
it's the way to ensure that your enemies always win.
JD Vance going on to say that the way that we won was actually having Mark Levin and Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly and John Ponderitz all on the exact same side, all pushing for an American victory over something that we can unify against. And those voices don't agree on anything. And it's something that's been such a pain in the butt over the last couple of weeks, months, frankly, since the start of the Iran war, but dating back to last summer during the Epstein files, nightmarish botched release, non-release, cover-up. It's like the whole operation and strategy there was a nightmare. And according to available reports, JD Vance has been proven right on both those fronts. JD Vance's instincts on Epstein was just release everything. Who cares? It'll be used against us if we don't. And he was right. The cover-up artists or the people that said, let's just whitewash this thing, they were wrong. And Charlie Kirk knew they were wrong, and I knew they were wrong, and a lot of loud and smart voices knew they were wrong. And out of love, we pushed the administration to take a different tact before it became damaging and used as a political weapon. It was. And it's the same thing with the Iran war. But the problem is that while you can, if your buddy is drinking too much at a bar, it's love if you go and cut him off. It's hatred if you let him drink himself to death and then get in a car and then drive into a ditch or something worse. Love is intervening with your friend and pushing them the right direction. Hatred is letting them destroy themselves. And I don't want the Trump administration to destroy itself. I want the Trump administration to win. And the best way to do that is to stay in the game. All these people lighting themselves on fire. It's been a humiliation act. And it's been very tough the last couple of months. So anyway, this isn't my therapy couch, but I need people to understand what we are fighting against and how we win the ultimate battle. Because as you could see, sort of crystallized in the White House lawn, there is a American future that is within grasp where the woke is dead, where the Democrat Party is barely able to pull 20%, where it takes them 100 years to rebuild. And we have 100 years to remake not only this nation, but Western civilization as a whole for the good of humanity and for the sake of our children and our future. And so let's grab that opportunity. JD Vance has little kids. I think they just welcomed their newest. JD, did they have their child? Or are they welcoming their child? Is their fourth child been born yet? Yeah, I don't know. Has it? Have they? I don't know. But they're having their fourth child, and I have 4 babies, and they're all little, and I was with them this morning. And there's nothing that locks you in more to clarity of what's actually before us than thinking about the future of your children. It is with that I want to talk quickly about Gavin Newsom, because I was on Fox last night, and I missed an opportunity, and I hate it when I do that, to go. No, Ashley, it's their fourth. Ashley's saying that it's their third child. No. They're having baby number 4. They have not had their baby yet, but I think that Usha is very close. And the Millers just had, Stephen Miller and his wife just had a baby. So Gavin Newsom is odds on leading the pack for the Democrat nomination for the presidency in 2028. And Gavin Newsom is out with a mewling, bitching video about the federal government investigating him and specifically his wife for their shady business practices. We'll talk about those in just a second. But Gavin Newsom sits here and does this little lecture and says, stay away from my wife. Don't talk about my wife. I'm going to be the vanguard, protecting women. How dare you come after my wife? Gavin Newsom came after my wife when I went to California to expose mass homelessness fraud used to rig elections, which they did. Gavin Newsom's instinctually, immediately attacked my family with baseless lies as his direct response to me exposing fraud in his state. He should have been thanking me, even working with me, and I would have welcomed that. But Gavin Newsom used it as an opportunity to attack my wife and family. A California man just pled guilty in federal court to attempting to murder my wife and family. Something I haven't spoken very publicly about, but something that did just happen. And he echoed Gavin Newsom in his threats to me and my kids and my wife. Gavin Newsom's never once said sorry for that, never once reached out. But Gavin Newsom, the vanguard of protecting women and protecting wives, also never reached out when Jimmy Kimmel attacked Charlie Kirk and his widow. Jimmy Kimmel was Gavin Newsom's best friend. He broadcast out of California. Did Gavin Newsom ever reach out to Melania Trump when Jimmy Kimmel said Melania Trump looks like an expectant widow? Gavin Newsom ever reached out to Heidi Montag, who's the wife of Spencer Pratt? Gavin Newsom's own policies burned down their home where they were raising their two little boys. Gavin Newsom ever apologized to that wife? What about the countless wives, mothers, and children who've been sex trafficked into Gavin Newsom's state because he has a sanctuary state that won't cooperate or follow federal law? He has open borders still in California. How about the mothers of all the children who are on the streets of LA, 100,000 in California, that are fed booze and needles and drugs and super meth and crack, who live in filth, squalor, human feces and urine under bridges, paid for by Gavin Newsom? What about those moms? Gavin Newsom ever considered them? Has he ever apologized to them? Gavin Newsom sitting there complaining that somebody's going after his wife or his family. How many boys, young women, young men in their prime has Gavin Newsom put in the ground? Dead, buried, gone because of the suicidal policies of his state. Because of the hell that has been created on purpose for power to monopolize and profit off of human misery, traffic off of human death and destruction, as you watch California descend into absolute madness under Gavin Newsom's reign. And he has the bloody cheek to attack Nick Shirley, who's trying to simply solve the fraud problem that is the cancer in California. He attacks Nick Shirley, calls him a child predator. Gavin Newsom calls Nick Shirley a child predator, putting a mark on his back to get him killed. That's exactly what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. Gavin Newsom is defending his wife. Well, who's his wife? Jennifer Sybil Newsom. Jennifer Sybil Newsom is in charge of a bunch of shady businesses, nonprofits that do profit off the state, that do have legitimate reasons to be investigated. Gavin Newsom's own chief of staff just pled guilty to tax fraud. Jennifer Sybil Newsom is somebody who needs to have some very tough questions asked of her, not just about her shady nonprofits, her shady businesses, and her obvious psychotic longhouse mentality that is a base humiliation to Gavin every time she opens her mouth. But also maybe some questions about hey, Jennifer, like what was it exactly when you were working with Harvey Weinstein making movies with him. What kind of a relationship did you have with him? You can describe Harvey Weinstein's genitalia in great detail, and you did before a jury in California. You say you're a victim, but all of the other victims say that you were working in order to silence them. Were you? We know that you worked to silence an abused woman. That abused woman was abused by Gavin Newsom. She was married, and she was his secretary. And Gavin Newsom would take advantage of her when she was intoxicated. Remember that? Jennifer Sybil Newsom went to the press and blackmailed and victim blamed this poor woman who's taken advantage of by Gavin. And so we're supposed to sit here and now suddenly feel sorry for you? No. These are the grapes of wrath, and you sowed them. You did this to yourself. You deserve all of it. I hope you get what you deserve. I hope you burn for this. The Newsoms are a deeply cretinous and immoral and wicked family. And I pray this investigation continues with full force. And you should be praying that too. The country will be destroyed by villainous snakes like Gavin Newsom, who will quickly and immediately play the victim card for their families or their own political power, while yours burn, literally in the case of Spencer Pratt and his wife. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my getting, it's like the problem is on Fox, you only have like 2 or 3 minutes. You can't kind of get that stuff off your chest. So there it is. And that's my take on Gavin. Oh, wow. Okay, fantastic. Just checking in with the team. The Labor Secretary is set and ready to rock on the show. We have a ton of other things to get to. But ladies and gentlemen, we're excited to be welcoming to the first time, for the first time, to the show, Acting Labor Secretary Keith Sonderling, who will be joining us right now to talk about the fraud. I think a great deal of it being based in California that has been exposed by the Department of Labor. This is the single most important issue for the future of our republic. And a lot of good people are doing a lot of great and humble work behind the scenes to expose this level of fraud. And the Labor Secretary is one of them. So please welcome to the show, Acting Labor Secretary Keith Sonderling. Keith, welcome to the program.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's talk about this fraud expose that you've been doing. Unemployment insurance fraud, massive vector of fraud in the country. How are you going to be solving this?
Yeah, well, let's take a step back. And first, we need to thank President Trump for establishing the task force on fraud at the White House and appointing our great Vice President, J.D. Vance, to leading it. They've put such tremendous efforts across all agencies to really root out fraud, and root out fraud particularly in government programs that gives out your hard-earned taxpayers' dollars to individuals. So the Department of Labor's role in this is related to unemployment insurance. And with unemployment insurance, we need to take a step back. During COVID, $900 billion was given out to help people get back on their feet, to help people deal with some of the job losses related to COVID. But during the Biden administration, $135 billion of that money was stolen by fraud. So think about the scale of that. $135 billion is one of the largest taxpayer thefts in history. And when you look about that, how rampant the fraud was across the country, it was related to paying people who were in prison, who obviously aren't able to work, paying people who were under 14, 3-year-olds, 7-year-olds getting unemployment insurance. And, how did that happen? It was a lack of controls. It was states just turning a blind eye and letting this money flow. So with the vice president's task force, it's really making sure that never happens again. And we're taking some really extraordinary measures to ensure that that never happens.
It does boggle the mind that, I mean, not only is California still counting votes, isn't that exciting? They're still counting votes, but then also that we live in a world where, like, we control space, right? SpaceX is now a $2 trillion company. We have AI that can solve the most complicated mathematical equations and problems in the world. It can do surgery, right? We have some of the most sophisticated technologies that has ever been known to man. It's like scary. But yet we still can't do these basic things. The government still can't do these basic things, like these ledger things, like clean the voter rolls or figure out if you actually need unemployment insurance or solve these kinds of frauds. So can you talk to me about how you're using technology in order to root out this level of fraud? It'd be really nice to see the federal government like updated so that this stuff isn't so easy that any Somali that gets off a boat can like come in and become a multimillionaire through ripping off the federal government. Is
a great point. I'm going back to how that fraud occurred because there's no checks. And in this administration, we are no longer paying first and then verifying later. We're verifying first. And the reason that $135 billion fraud was able to happen during the Biden administration was largely because Social Security numbers were stolen, and they were stolen by criminal actors. They were stolen by foreign countries. They were stolen by our adversaries. And they were taking a Social Security number, using that same Social Security number, applying for unemployment insurance across the states. The states weren't talking to each other. So it was allowing this fraud to occur. And worse, that money, that hard-earned taxpayer dollars that were supposed to go to help Americans, it was going to places like China and North Korea and Kenya, or criminal actors in the United States was using that money to buy guns, to sell drugs. And that's like the worst possible situation for taxpayer money to be spent, especially when it was designed to help Americans get back in the workforce. So technology is playing a really huge role in this. And this gets to the point of why I'm so excited to come on today and talk to you. This morning, I issued a groundbreaking letter to 53 governors of states and territories. And I warned for the first time in the Department of Labor history that I will be the first secretary to shut off their unemployment insurance system if they don't start putting these mechanisms in, if they don't start using the technology to verify the people who are applying for unemployment are who they say they are. And it's not stolen, it's not for 5-year-olds, and that they're actually eligible. Another big part of this, are you actually eligible to work? Are you laid off? Do you qualify for this? And then for the continuing benefits, are you actually still looking for a job? You know, there's different scales of the fraud. There's an individual who may just be using their own Social Security number and not looking for jobs while they're supposed to be, or the mass scale criminal ring frauds where you're stealing thousands of Social Security numbers and applying and be able to get that unemployment insurance. So in that letter, I highlighted the issues in certain states, and you won't be surprised in the states that lead the fraud and improper payments: New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Massachusetts, and California. New York specifically is paying over $2 million every single day for improper payments. Think about that, every single day. And California, which you were talking about before I got on, their unemployment insurance system is so broken. They owe the U.S. government, the federal government, $20 billion into a trust related to their mismanagement. So this letter is really putting all governors on notice that the Trump administration, that President Trump has created this task force that Vice President Vance is leading. And now we're requiring you to stop paying first, to have these verification systems. And a big part of that is implementing the technology and implementing the controls. And if you don't, we are going to, for the first time, potentially cut off that state's ability to administer this if so much is going out in fraud. Now, we don't want to hurt U.S. workers who actually need this, but it's the Democrat governors who are allowing this fraud to occur. And we have to send a message that we can no longer waste hard-earned taxpayer dollars in those states related to fraud.
$20 billion is more than the GDP of a lot of countries. So like you're telling me that California owes the federal government $20 billion?
Correct.
Do I understand this correctly, that they're the only state that hasn't actually paid that back?
Correct. And that's a big chunk of change. And, you know, it was money given to them to help actually administer these systems and not mismanage that and not commit fraud. And obviously it's not working because they are one of the top states when it comes to improper payments and fraud. But New York is number one with 23% of all their payments related to that are improper or related to fraud. And that $2 million a day number is also really puts it in perspective that every single day, $2 million every single day, every single 24 hours is being stolen.
It's very frustrating, Keith, because if I use the improper decimal in my taxes, then I get an audit and I'll have to pay a huge fine, right? If I have one missing receipt for hundreds of thousands of receipts for our complicated business every single year, like if I have one missing receipt, then I am under threat of audit and major penalty by the IRS. Yet on the flip side, the federal government, while they attack business owners and entrepreneurs like me in such a excruciating and withering way, they seem to be like just leaf blowing cash into the pockets of Pakistanis and Somalis and people without ever checking any of this stuff, without anyone ever like even asking if any of these payments are legitimate.
And it's
like if you're trying to run a legitimate business in a tough space and like build something, right? We have like a small devoted team here. I am an employer. We are entrepreneurs. We're doing our best. Like it's tough out here and we're constantly attacked by the federal government. And then I listen to you and we put up your statement. We put up your letter. We put up your tweet. I'm reading it as you're talking through it. It's like, it makes my blood boil, man.
And think about that. During the Biden administration, $1.2 billion of your taxpayer money went to children under 14 who were claiming they were not able to get unemployment insurance. The most egregious example is that somebody who was born in the year 2154 was able to apply for and successfully get unemployment insurance. And obviously it's 2026, and that's just ridiculous. And 25,000 people over 115 years old were also able to get unemployment insurance. I think there's like one or two people who are 114 or 115 in the entire United States. But that just shows how easy, without the controls, that fraud against our taxpayer money has been. And that's what's so exciting about President Trump's administration. We are stopping the fraud. We are preventing this money from going out. And we're going to really hold states accountable, whether it's in the Department of Labor for unemployment insurance, what USDA is doing in SNAP, what Dr. Oz is doing at HHS with CMS and those fundings. You see it constantly. This is what our passion is. This is what President Trump wants. And we finally have the license to put an end to this, because the billions and billions of dollars that are going out to fraudsters, to criminal rings, to foreign countries, that is our money, needs to stay here. These programs were designed to help Americans get back on their feet. And we've been totally taken advantage of, and that's ending under President Trump's leadership.
You're crushing it, man. I know that the president's going to be giving a press conference very soon, and so we don't want to preempt that. But I did have one other very important question. Saw that you were coming on the show today, so I really wanted to hit on something that I think is critical. That's probably way more complicated than I think it is, but I think it would solve the problems of this nation so quickly. If you were able to get rid of the capacity for criminal aliens to work here in this country, then I think that we would have such a outflow of self-deportations and such a solving of this critical issue of our time and the issue that is plaguing all of Western civilization right now. What is your stance on this? What actions are you taking as the Department of Labor to ensure that only American citizens are not only getting benefits, but also are able to work legally in this country? I know there's laws on the books, right? It's illegal for somebody who's not legally here in this country to get benefits and to work, or am I wrong about that? How can we fix that, Keith?
Well, from our perspective, employers that hire illegal labor or don't comply with federal labor laws, they're undercutting other businesses that are playing by the rules. So from the Department of Labor's perspective, we also look at it at the businesses. So if a business is intentionally hiring an illegal worker over an American, that's that business's problems too. And we need to hold them accountable. But more importantly, we're focused on the American worker in this administration. And President Trump promised to bring industries back. He promised to bring those American jobs that made us the best country in the world, such as manufacturing. We're reindustrializing. We're reshoring so many different industries. In President Trump's second term, so far, we've created 900,000 new private sector jobs. And those are high paid jobs and they require high skill. So for the Department of Labor, we're doing everything we can to make sure that American workers and only American workers have those skills to take those high paying jobs. And we're really working very closely with the Department of Education to completely rewrite how the education system works. We were now moving towards an industry-led training. So instead of the teachers unions and teachers dictating what that curriculum should be, we're letting employers and industry actually dictate what the skills that students need to get those high-paying jobs without having to go to a 4-year degree, without having a lot of debt. And President Trump has made a commitment to get the Department of Labor to have 1 million active registered apprenticeships. And we believe that's the model that works. It allows students to actually get on the job, get real life training, and get paid while they work without any debt. The average registered apprentice, $86,000 is the starting salary. That's $20,000 more than if you had a 4-year degree without any debt. So we're just focused on American workers, getting them off the sidelines, going into high schools, getting people into these high-skilled jobs without taking student debt. And that's how we believe we're going to get American workers the opportunities for these high-skilled jobs that the president promised to bring back and is bringing back. With the trillions of dollars of investments coming in, nobody is going to get those jobs over American workers. And that's our mission at the Department of Labor.
So are you going to be going after legally and putting the screws to these businesses that hire illegals? I mean, we've seen some pretty remarkable numbers out of the trucking industry with some new rules about truck drivers and illegals. Are you going to be applying that to writ large, the labor market?
Absolutely. And we did that here too, with making sure that truck drivers, their training is also in English too. But we really need to make sure that American workers are getting those opportunities. And we need American businesses that to also play by that rule. So for our jurisdiction at the Department of Labor, which is a little different than the Department of Homeland Security, we can just hold those bad actors accountable for undercutting other businesses and passing over U.S. workers for illegal workers, and that won't be tolerated. And that's what the Department of Labor is going to do. It's going to hold those employers accountable to dissuade them from ever trying to do that again, and always giving the American worker that first and best opportunity.
Just really quickly here, H-1Bs, what's your stance on that? We kind of hate it because we know how rife it is. We get that, like, just like everything else, every other government program, we get that it has perhaps like a smart idea behind it. But in practice, it's just completely displacing all American workers and is being horribly abused by America's enemies.
So we have an initiative here called Project Firewall, which is actually enforcing the H-1B laws and going after employers that are abusing the system and not paying their employees right, not giving opportunities to the workers in America who should be getting those jobs. But importantly, we actually have a rule that we're working right on now to raise the wage categories for H-1B program. So instead, we're employers now, they just dump everyone in the lowest category, which doesn't reflect the wages. So it's actually cheaper to hire the H-1B worker than American worker. We have a proposed rule that's going to raise all of those categories. So if you want to hire an H-1B worker, it's going to be much, much more expensive than before to actually pay them the rate instead of putting everyone in the lowest category. So this is obviously from a regulation perspective, it's complicated because you have the Department of Homeland Security, you have the Department of Labor, you have USCIS. So at least in our role at the Department of Labor, you have our commitment that we're going to go after employers who commit fraud in the H-1B program. And we're going to make sure that if employers do use the H-1B program, which is a lawful program, that they're actually paying the correct wages to not undercut American workers who can also get those opportunities instead of bringing in cheaper foreign labor.
Thank you so much, Keith Sonderling, Acting Labor Secretary. We're going to get right to your boss here, who's giving a press conference in seconds, but we deeply appreciate it. Everybody follow the Acting Labor Secretary right now, and he's doing excellent work, as is obviously empirical by this interview. Thank you, Keith. Godspeed.
Thanks.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, ensure that your labor is protected with American financing. Ensure that you are protecting your American future with the ability to get out of high-interest credit card debt. Nothing enslaves you. Nothing enslaves a people like debt. And the debt in this country is, of course, astronomical and a huge problem. We want to fix it, but you got to fix your home first. Get your home in order, right, before you venture out into the rest of the world. And so American Financing can do that for you. Make sure right now that you get out of an exhausting cycle of high interest credit card debt, which I think is illegal, it should be illegal and immoral, 20 and 30%. American Financing can make sure that you are consolidating those payments into the Fed's funds rate. No pressure. You can get started today and get free. Call American Financing at 888-528-1219. That's 888-528-1219, americanfinancing.net/Benny. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, apparently there's people. I mean, do we have like a live shot? Do we have like a shot that sort of promos what's going on? So here's Macron sitting there. So Macron's sitting there. I guess Trump isn't on yet. Is that correct? Is Trump on? No. Talk to me. Okay. So Trump's not on. So I'm not gonna go to Macron. Although I have plenty of questions I'd like to ask Emmanuel Macron. Trump's not up yet for this press conference. Maybe they're doing like a round robin where they just like let him finish and brush him off stage, and then Donald Trump pops back on. So we ain't going to this one. But when Trump gets on, you can sort of see the vibes here. It's going to be quite interesting. I do truly hope that JD Vance goes on The View again. I can't believe that I'm saying that, but it is something that is empirical, that JD Vance launched his 2028 presidential race yesterday. He did. There's just that like the way that JD moved yesterday, not only by lecturing and like smashing down Megyn Kelly for being a doomer, but then also smashing down the women of The View, and doing so like very graciously and very gracefully, by walking on set and getting, by the way, a massive round of applause while walking on set, which I thought was like extremely interesting. Do we have that clip?
President of the United States, J.D. Vance.
Okay. What? That's interesting. And they all shook his hand, and none of them spontaneously combusted, which I think is weird. Isn't that the nature? Isn't that the nature of a witch? And what are the properties of the witch? Are you supposed to they're supposed to sink, right? Or do they float? Or do they sink? You throw them in the water. How do you tell? They shake J.D. Vance's hand. They turn into ash. They spontaneously combust. Nobody knows. Yeah, that's exactly right. What an interesting camera shot. And then J.D. Vance immediately pops off and goes, sets everyone at ease, or does pure rage bait by saying, I thought this was a MAGA Republican show. We got that? Okay. ALX, I know we've had this conversation. Just go through like with the OC on these things. It makes it a lot easier. I don't even actually know where we are in the script. I'm just going off the top of my head as we wait for President Trump. Do we even have it in the script? Oh, there we go. Okay. Give me JD Vance. I thought this was a MAGA Republican show. This is like the first thing JD Vance says is like sets everybody, is it like causes the entire show to seethe, but then also like puts everyone at ease. Here we go. Go.
I was surprised at how tall you were. It's very tall.
If you only see somebody on TV, you just see their, in my case, giant heads. So it hides how tall I am. Yeah. That's right.
We are the table of big heads here.
Self-deprecating
show of MAGA Republicans, right? That's what my media team told me. Okay, good.
Well, we'll find out.
I mean, come on. It's genius. It's great. You immediately ingratiate yourself. There's not that many vestiges of left-wing, libtard, unquestioned thinking left. There's Jimmy Kimmel's show on the West Coast. We're about to cancel that. There was Stephen Colbert's show on the East Coast. We canceled that. And now it's like The View. And that's it. These are like the last pillars inside of the diseased temple of libtard groupthink. And JD Vance walking in and like doing, I mean, that's why this clip is so important, because it's like you set the table by either being awkward up front or nervous or like cracking a joke. And so a self-deprecating joke about the size of his head, and then like a joke about the show itself, like causes Whoopi Goldberg to laugh. It's a masterclass. Why does Trump hate black people? I mean, you knew this was coming, right? So here's JD Vance getting asked this question by Whoopi Goldberg and just are very artfully saying, what do you mean? It's just such a great tactic. Why don't you describe or define the terms you're talking about? Whoopi Goldberg goes, Trump hates black people. Really? I'd like to answer your question, Whoopi. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Watch.
What did black people do to this administration that has allowed it to really stigmatize folks of color? And you know how hard it is. You have folks of color in your family.
Sure.
So when you see, things, the Emmett Till stuff coming down, or them doing all kinds of removal of information of black heroes, how does that sit with you?
Well, what exactly are you talking about, Whoopi? Because you just, I know Emmett Till was the kid. No, I want to know what she's.
You don't know what I'm
talking
talking
to
about.
your actual point.
So in a lot of the museums, there's so many. Where they're taking down the actual history that happened in this country. Slavery happened. All kinds of stuff happened, and it seems that it has been very easy for this administration to remove that, and also to denigrate black folks who have worked their behinds off to get this American dream. How do you, I mean, you know better.
So Sonny, that was actually a very helpful intervention, because I think the story you're talking about is where, allegedly the administration is holding back the appointments of people based on skin color. I've seen the story.
I'm talking about a host of things. I'm talking about black history getting erased from public spaces. Black voter districts are being dismantled. Black leaders are being sidelined from our ranks. Where do Americans of color fit in this vision? Because it doesn't seem like we fit.
I think, Sonny, my view.
And if I may, since October of last year, there's been something like 6,668 refugees allowed into the country. All but 3 were white South Africans.
So, first of all, nice. I'm very skeptical of that number, because we have a lot of different immigration pathways in the United States of America. But let me just address Whoopi's point. Look, first of all, you asked the question, and maybe you don't believe this coming from me, but I think everybody is welcome in our political coalition. Frankly, even if you didn't vote for us, everybody is welcome in our country, so long as you're an American citizen with the duties and the legal obligations and rights to be here. But Whoopi, let me just give you an example of this. Yeah. Okay, so you say that we're anti-minority or anti-black.
No, I didn't say that. I asked. See?
Well, okay, fine. Fair.
Don't start any stuff with me, man. Don't get me in trouble. Don't start no stuff with me. But
I misinterpreted your question, but let me answer your actual question there. What I'm saying, I think, okay, look at Washington, D.C. One of the most democratic and one of the blackest, by share of population, blackest cities in the United States of America, has seen a radical decrease in violent crimes and sexual assaults and in murders. We have tried to take the crime issue seriously, in part because we believe everybody, whether you're black or white or rich or poor, deserves to live in a safe neighborhood.
Why does the crime? Where does the crime step in? This is not about crime.
The crimes committed by black people. What do you like? What do you mean? They're lucky I'm not on The View. I would love to go on The View. When am I invited on The View? What are you talking? Well, you're talking. I'm talking about the disproportionate, extraordinarily violent subculture of black violence that accounts for something like 8 out of every 10 violent crimes in America. That accounts for virtually all gun homicide crime. And it's perpetrated sometimes against white people, but the vast majority of times, and sometimes against Hispanics, but the vast majority of times against other black people. That's what we're talking about. That's the correct answer to that. The correct answer to that is to show the data and say, okay, Whoopi, like maybe it's time to have this hard conversation about why is this subculture of America Carmelo Anthony's? Why? Why are they so violent? And start talking about fatherlessness and broken families and government assistance and the poison of that on the black community. Thank you, Whoopi, for asking your question. This is the correct answer. Black people are disproportionately, especially young black men, are disproportionately hyper violent in our society. Why is that? And then that's a real conversation. That's a real question. That's a real conversation. JD Vance was there with the answer. You say we're anti-black? Please, we're making these predominantly black cities way more safe with policing and the National Guard and so on. But you ask a great question, so let's get to the root of the actual problem, because America is simply the most peaceful nation if you get rid of black violence. And that's what all statistics, FBI, Bureau of Labor, all of the statistics show this. All of the violent crime statistics show this. So then you need to ask those questions. If you're being honest, if you actually care about the future of children, especially black children in this country, these are the questions you must ask. I mean, we have the chart. You have that chart? We have the chart. Hey, Alex, grabbing the chart. Oh, it's like, don't make me punch the button. The chart on homicide violence in America. We don't talk about it enough. Well, America actually doesn't have a gun violence problem. It has a subculture, a specific identifiable subculture of homicide gun violence. There are neighborhoods in Chicago that are far more deadly than the front lines of Ukraine. So, why is that? What is it that is contributing to that? Thank you, Whoopi Goldberg, for allowing us to have this conversation. How enlightening for all of us. Thank you, Whoopi. Guys, you should just have that graphic. You should have that and 20 other graphics on standby, please. You know where I'm going to go with this. You know where I'm going to go with it. Yeah. Okay. JD Vance was asked the same question on the border. Was asked the same question. Children in cages. They're trying to pull this. They're trying to pull this stupid op again with him. Oh, children in cages and families. These people don't care about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungare. They don't care about any of the Americans that are killed by criminal. They don't care about the infinity children and women that are sex trafficked. JD Vance called them out to their faces on this. Go.
Over 50 people have died in ICE custody. There are thousands of children, 6,200, that are being held in places like Dilley Detention Center. The people that have visited those detention centers, I don't know if you have, talk about the subhuman, infrahuman conditions, the lack of clean water, the lack of medical attention, the lack of education. I would urge you as a Christian and as a father to visit those detention centers where the children are being held and make sure that the conditions are up to the values that we hold in this country.
So you guys have thrown a lot at me, and I see we got 30 seconds left here. But let me say,
You're
number
the Vice
one,
President. You can go long.
I'd like to pick up on this theme because I think it's really important. We do have to strike a balance, of course, between enforcing our laws. We don't want to dehumanize people. That is the balance that, look, law enforcement, what I'd say about this, law enforcement is always inherently not a very pretty process, especially when you're dealing sometimes with violent people, with people who are resisting arrest. Some of the people that I've been told by the media were completely peaceful, had never violated any laws. You actually look into the record and you find out that those people were actually being violent, or they did have a criminal record. They had a sex trafficking conviction.
Don't have criminal records. So the majority of people that ICE is rounding up and taking out of their homes from their families, they're separating families. They're using children as bait. But the majority are not criminals.
But can I respond to that, guys? Let me just say this. Okay. So you talk about the children. Here's what I'd say. Do we know that during the last administration, we had tens of thousands of children who were sex trafficked by the cartels, who were brought into our country in profoundly dangerous and predatory conditions.
Let's talk about this administration.
But here's the point. Unless you enforce the border, you invite that kind of conduct. You think that our immigration policies are inhumane based on the reporting of one person with a political bias. What I'm telling you is that it's inhumane to allow cartels to sex traffic people across our border. And by the way,
hold on, please.
It's perfect. The perfect way to respond here to those style of questions that are intended, of course, to trip up or to smear the vice president is to say, what are you talking about? Violence in America or illegal aliens with their little children. You let them in here. You wouldn't have any separated families. You wouldn't have any crying children. You wouldn't have any moms or dads. Like, we can, by the way, deport them as families, of course, which we should. But you wouldn't have that if it wasn't for you guys opening the borders. You're the monsters. It's the correct way to respond. And of course, J.D. Vance is more diplomatic than me. I would have brought out the chart. Here's the chart, finally. Here's the chart, along with a ton of other data. There you go. The homicide rate. Let's make that bigger. Thank you. It's the homicide rate per 100,000 people in America, broken up by U.S. black versus U.S. white. You see, if it was just like the U.S. white numbers, which is all that's ever reported in the media, when a white person fires a gun, you can see here that actually the U.S. white population is possibly the single most peaceful, nonviolent population in the world. So when they're talking about homicide crime, they're talking about black and Hispanic in America, which actually makes the country one of the least safe countries in the world, because I'm not sure even Somalia or like failed states like reach the levels of pure demographic horrors that this country reaches when it comes to black violence. 1 out of every 17 black men in America will commit a murder in their lifetime. 1 out of 17? That can't be right. It is. Here's the charts. How do you how do you even begin to try and solve any other thing other than this problem? 1 out of 17 black men will commit a murder? 1 out of every 425 white men will commit a murder. That's still too much. But it begins, you begin to immediately see that there is a cultural breakdown here. And that it is like, if you wish to talk about violent crime or gun crime, which the left always does, then you need to actually bring the statistics and the data. And then say, okay, now let's talk about this. Whoopi Goldberg, you want to talk about like violence in America and gun crime? Okay, let's talk about who's committing all the gun crime, the vast majority of it, or the homicides. Without doing that, you're not having an honest conversation. Incredible. So anyway, J.D. Vance doing God's work yesterday, going through. I hope that I get invited on The View. It'll be a really exciting day. I really look forward to it. I'm sure my invitation is in the mail. Ladies and gentlemen, in the mail could potentially be your Patriot Mobile phone. You can sign up for Patriot Mobile today. You can get the best cell service in the country. Patriot Mobile can ensure that you are locked and loaded like we are when we are on the road. We do a lot of work with Patriot Mobile. They're an incredible company. They're the only Christian conservative wireless provider. Make sure that you're locked in today. And again, you can sign up in just minutes with their America First, America-centered tech support that allows you to defend faith, family, and freedom without contributing millions to organizations that hate you. Instead, Patriot Mobile funds organizations that love you, front lines, fighting for our God-given rights. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny or call 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code Benny for a free month of service. That's patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT to make the switch today. We're going to switch it up and talk a little bit about Joe Biden because apparently Emmanuel Macron is still yapping on stage, and talk about Joe Biden not getting any gold for her book. Jill Biden. How Jill Biden's book sales prove that the election was stolen. It's going to be exciting. First, ladies and gentlemen, you should back your retirement with gold. Advantage Gold is the company that we trust. I'm going to jump in here because I don't know how long Trump's going to go with his press conference. So I just want to make sure that we hit our partners. And, well, it's the golden era. President Trump's going to talk a lot about the economy. He's going to talk a lot about the physical assets like oil flowing through the Strait of Hormuz and other commodities. If it's made out of paper, then it can be reduced to the price of paper. If it's made out of gold, then it's going to hold its value as it has for 5,000 years. You can swap your 401k or IRA into a gold-backed retirement plan. You can do it today. Text Benny to 85545. That's Benny to 85545. No cost, no obligation, no pressure. Check your allocation and make sure that you take control with Advantage Gold. Advantage Gold today. Okay, let's talk straight numbers. We've been doing some data. We've been having a data conversation. So let's talk numbers here. When it comes to American elections, the presidential elections are a popularity contest. And that's what they've always been. It's what they always will be. And whether you're likable is going to be a huge issue. But most importantly is whether the American people are on your side. And the way that they prove that is the number of votes that you get. And so you can go through historic elections and you can see that the American people side with kind of remarkably and naturally the candidate that has the most energy and the candidate that has the most dynamicism. And it's not perfect, but by and large, that candidate gets the vast majority of the votes. So let's fast forward or rewind back here to the Barack Obama 2008 presidential election, where the first half-black guy to run for president was able to get 69 million votes. Whoa. That is a whole 10 million more people voting for Barack Obama than John McCain in a total and complete landslide. That hurts my feelings because Florida, Ohio, Indiana, Iowa, all of these are ruby red states today. But in 2008, just a couple of short years ago, they went for Barack Obama. Isn't that fascinating? Other states like Nevada that are swinging red went for Barack Obama. Wisconsin and Michigan went for Barack Obama along with Pennsylvania and North Carolina. All of these are what you would consider light red or ruby red states today, but that was an absolute wipeout. And Obama won. Fast forward to 2012. 2012 presidential election. Barack Obama, slightly less votes. He got 5 million less votes because the communism was peeking through a little bit. People started to realize that this guy wasn't the change agent, or maybe was the change agent that he promised to be, but it was changed for the worse. And there was a 5 million vote differential. Still a comfortable election night victory for Barack Obama. And Barack Obama won by winning the most number of electoral votes. In 2016, you can see Hillary Clinton, who's the first post-menopausal Subaru driver, battle axe of a woman, very, very historic, to run for president. And she got 62 million votes. Sorry, 65 million votes. That's Trump. Trump got, we're just going to round up to 63 million. Hillary Clinton got 65 million. Anyway, still a historic election. A lot of votes Hillary Clinton got. But Trump ended up winning because of this genius thing called the Electoral College that ensures that places like Los Angeles and New York won't be able to completely dominate over the rest of the nation. And, well, still lots of votes going for Hillary Clinton. And then here in the 2024 presidential election, Kamala Harris, the first half-black woman to run for president, got 75 million votes. That's a ton of votes. Now, Donald Trump actually won the popular vote this time around, which is phenomenal and incredible. And then he won the presidency. So you can see the trend line goes very directly toward the person who gets the most votes. Here's where things get crazy. Because in 2020, they want you to believe that Joe Biden got 81 million votes. Joe Biden got 51%. It's always this. It's always 51. It's always 51%. Because they put it into an algorithm and they punch out that number. They want you to believe that Joe Biden got 81 million votes. That is over 10 million more votes than Barack Obama's best election. That's way more votes than Barack Obama running a second time, 15 million plus more votes. That's way more votes than Hillary Clinton ever got or Kamala Harris ever got. I mean, you'd think if Joe Biden built some amazing coalition that Kamala would at least like pull from that. Nope. Dude running from his basement who never said or did anything remarkable, never presented any vision for anything or anyone, pulled in 81 million. Okay, fine. Let's go with that. If Biden is that popular, then why has Jill Biden's delusional book sold just 20,000 copies? ALX, what percentage is 20,000 of 81 million? Quick math here. Let's go to AI. What percentage of the votes that Joe Biden got in the year 2020, what percentage of those people were drawn to buying Jill Biden's book? Very simple denominator here to figure out. Send me the number. I want to do the actual math. Send me the grok. It is less than 1% of 1% of 1%. There is 0.0246%. If the Bidens actually had a legitimate election in 2020, in what universe could you possibly explain away Jill Biden's book sales here? Jill Biden apparently has a #1 New York Times bestseller. Yet there's an asterisk on her New York Times bestseller that says this is a bestseller because of mass sales. Here, because of how they rig book sales in America. Not like I really care, but like it's called the dagger of death. And what it means is a dagger indicates that some retailers report receiving bulk orders. So Jill Biden goes to George Soros or the Sunshine Foundation or whatever, right? No Kings, and says, will you please buy 10,000 copies of my book? And then I'll give a speech for you or whatever. You know, we'll do some type of political kickback for you. And that's how they boost the book sales. So it's not even like this number isn't even real. This number is various dark money organizations or NGOs going out and mass purchasing Jill Biden's books in order to bump up her numbers. So this is just like one way. Again, this is just one way, and like another provable data point that shows exactly how fraudulent that election was. Barack Obama, 69 million votes. Barack Obama, 65 million votes. Hillary Clinton, 65 million votes. Kamala Harris, 75 million votes. Nobody believes that. Joe Biden, 81 million votes. Can't even sell 20,000 books. What an absolute and total shameful, embarrassing joke. We went to a Kamala Harris rally. They kicked us out. I can't believe they actually kicked us out. But we went there. It was so embarrassing. This was Hillary Clinton speaking in Tampa, Florida. You can see, wow, look at the media attention. Look at the amount of supporters here. This is Hillary Clinton, incapable of filling like even the smallest of ballrooms in my hometown. And Hillary Clinton is out going scorched earth on Joe Biden. Hillary Clinton is out saying Joe Biden made a terrible mistake. Now, why would she be saying this? Why is the entire Democrat Party going scorched earth against Joe Biden? Kamala Harris is now going after Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is under federal investigation. It's a cluster. Hillary Clinton saying it was a terrible mistake for Joe Biden to run. And this is in spite of the fact that Hillary Clinton constantly was hyping Joe Biden on social media. Join me in becoming part of their re-election campaign today. Joe and Kamala are the best people to run for the job. It's become clear that the November election, the most effective president of our lifetime, is Joe Biden. I'll be voting for Biden. This is Hillary Clinton hyping Joe Biden, glazing Joe Biden day and night during the 2024 election. Yet now, Hillary Clinton is going out savage mode against Joe. Here we go.
He made a terrible mistake. He made a terrible mistake for himself, his legacy, and for the country. He had said that he would not run again. And, counterfactual narratives are always a bit tricky. But I believe if he had kept to that plan and said in, say, the late summer of 23 that he wasn't going to run, that he was going to pass, the torch to the next generation, we would have had a real contest. And very sadly, I believe whoever emerged from that contest, whether it was the vice president or a governor or a senator or anybody else, would have beaten Donald Trump. So I think it was a terrible miscalculation on the part of President Biden. But once he didn't move and did not, admit that he had said he was going to step aside and then decided not to, and held on for as long as he did, we were in a terrible dilemma.
Hillary Clinton just wanted to run for president. This is my major takeaway from this, is that Hillary Clinton is just angry that she didn't get a chance, that she didn't run for president. She's still an old, bitter witch. This is the ultimate takeaway from this. And I love the back and forth. I love the backbiting. Kamala Harris is out effectively attacking Gavin Newsom now. Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom are number 1 and number 2 in the Democrat polls for 2028. I want to contribute to the savagery and to the destruction and the rubble of getting started right now on what is happening to the Democrat Party, sowing those seeds, and then of course reconstituting on our end strength and delivering for the American people. Which I'm checking in with my team. I wanted to cover the Trump press conference today. We were told that it would happen at 8:30. So we were ready to go then. But then it was moved to 9:30. Then I was moved to 10:30. Now it is 11:30. And so who knows? Who knows, ladies and gentlemen? Hillary Clinton is, however, one of the world's greatest monsters. And Hillary is such a liar. And she's just lying here about Joe Biden and about the history, I guess, trying to make herself look good. I'm not exactly sure. I do know this, that if you want somebody that's really good, if you want someone really good to campaign for you, you got to go with Hillary Clinton to get moments like this.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary
Thank you, Hillary. Thank you. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you for your contributions to American campaigning. Thank you. I deeply appreciate it, Hillary. Hillary Clinton barking like a dog.
Train this dog, and the dog, if it's not true, he's going to bark. And then the dog was barking on the radio. And so, people were barking at each other for days after that. I'm trying to figure out how we can do that with the Republicans. We need to get that dog and follow them around, and every time they say these things, the Great Recession was caused by too much regulation. I think we could cut right through a lot of their, their claims.
Thank you, Hillary. Look at the faces. My favorite thing is the faces. Look at the faces of the people behind Hillary. They're thrilled. They're so excited. The excitement is palpable. You could see it, and just oozing off the Hillary Clinton supporters here. It was such an exciting campaign. Remember, the Russians had information that Hillary Clinton was like collapsing physically on this campaign and could barely like stay conscious, and actually did subside to unconsciousness in multiple instances. I guess, yeah, yes, that's right. Look at the faces, just glowing, just inspirational. Been to a lot of MAGA rallies, and man, I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful for the timeline. The timeline change. We could have done 8 years of this.
Go. But I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
Okay. Who did the close-ups here? Oh, what a mess. All right. You guys give me I think she should run again. I went on Jesse Waters' show, and I regret not doing my Gavin Newsom takedown on the show. That he asked sort of like a broader question about Democrats in 2028. And so I said, why not Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden run again? They have nothing else. Like, why not have Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden just run again? This would be probably the right path for Democrats. At the very least, they'd save face. It's Kamala and Gavin are going to be nightmare. Gavin's probably going to be in prison by 28, and Kamala Harris is drunk 24/7. So why not just go with just go with it. Just go with what you know works. Okay, go with what you know. Like sort of gets you these exciting moments. Pokemon go to the polls.
But I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
Just run them again. You have nothing better. You have nothing better than Hillary and Joe. This is the best you're going to get. This is it. What happens next is AOC and Zorhan Mandami run. That's what happens next. And what's going to happen in between is just going to be humiliating to you. I said it on Fox News. That was a perfectly timed fart. According to my producers, according to the great ALX, we've got a couple of minutes before Trump takes the stage. So we're just gonna drag it through. We're just gonna go through. That's fine. We framed the whole show up. Again, they said 8:30, then 9:30, then 10:30. Now it's 11:30. So we're just gonna frame the whole show up. Trump's the boss. It is. What's that? I don't know, Alex. I don't know what you're saying. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. It looks like he went long with Modi, the president of India. Whatever. I don't care. Just as long as he stops all H-1Bs forever, then great. So President Trump will be live in just a moment, and we're gonna power through. We're gonna take. We're gonna power through. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get there. Just keep me updated, guys, and why not? We're already here. Apparently, he's up next for taking questions at the G7, and so we might as well just let her rip. Did we get JD Vance wrecking Jessica Tarlov on Fox? ALX, I know you have the clip. I would love to see that. Get that clip up because it ties into directly what we said on Fox News last night. And then we can then hopefully pivot over to the president. Polymarket. Will Iran end enrichment of uranium by June 30th? That would be the signing of the memorandum of understanding that has been secret and that has not had the text released yet, but allegedly is going to be signed in 48 hours. Well, there's a 46% chance. That'd be a huge victory. Sorry, I'm not going to care about anyone's. Clyde, you just have to click off the pop-up. I know it's annoying. I'm not going to care about anybody's, thank you, Monday morning quarterbacking on the Iran deal. I think it's a winning deal if it does just the basic rough outlines of what it says it's going to do. If Iran swears off a nuclear weapon, which they swear they want to, if it reopens and stabilizes economics throughout the region, then excellent. And upon that, the rest of Iran can just be sunken into the ocean for all I care. I don't care about Iran. I don't care about Israel. I don't care about Ukraine. I don't care about Russia. I don't care about these countries in so much as they can make life a living hell for my children. Then I care. And that's what this is stopping. So that's actually my principled stance on this. And you know, $7 gas does make life worse off for my kids and does destabilize my country. So I am in favor of the deal. Just like the basic outlines. Unless the deal says we have a total and unconditional surrender to the Ayatollah of Iran, some cardboard gay guy, I guess I'd not be in favor of that because that'd be a humiliation for my country. But it sounds like it's going to be a great deal for my country. And it's going to end this thing. And it's going to do the one thing that like I care about more than anything. Solidify the future for my children. And according to all available reports, President Trump like is seeing that J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard and some of the guys like Joe Kent, like maybe they were, maybe he's like leaned a little more to their side. The president has been savaging Netanyahu. And J.D. Vance was out explaining what this was on Fox last night, like what's going to happen with this Iran deal and giving like a very thoughtful and very solid take on what we're going to see here is J.D. Vance on Fox last night going off, going after Jessica Talrov, doing an excellent job sort of explaining what happens next year.
Report last night was meaningful, where they said that CIA Director Ratcliffe, Rubio, and Hegseth, based on American intelligence, were doubting the kind of results they thought we could get out of this deal.
So Jessica, let me address a couple of things, because I think you're making the same mistake, unfortunately, that a lot of the Iranian propagandists make when they talk about this,
like
which
the
is
Wall Street Journal?
They talk about the benefits to the Iranians without any of the things the Iranians would have to give up and have to change in order to get those benefits. So you mentioned a $300 billion fund. I got to be very clear about this. Not a single cent of American money under any circumstance, no matter what the Iranians do, goes to Iran. Not a single cent of American money.
Other money.
Here's what this says. This says, for example, let's say that the United Arab Emirates, who have been a great ally, let's say they want to invest in a power plant in Iran. What this deal provides is that if the Iranians have done everything we require them to do, then we will allow the United Arab Emirates to do that, because they can't do that right now without American approval. So we're fundamentally saying if the Iranians transform how they interact with the world, we will transform how the world economy interacts with Iran. But if they don't do any of that stuff, they don't get any of these benefits. So I think all the Democrats who are saying, well, the Iranians get all these things, they don't get anything unless there's been a complete transformation of how Iran interacts with the world. That would be a huge win for America. And to Jesse's point, if they don't do any of these things, we don't give them anything, they don't receive anything, their nuclear program is still destroyed, their military is still destroyed, their missile program and industrial base is still destroyed. We fundamentally have transformed the Middle East. Whether they comply or not, this is just icing on the cake, assuming they do all the right things.
Can I just take a look? And then obviously it goes to Greg. So I guess two things. One, there's already been reporting that the Qataris have been paying off the Iranians to get them to.
I've seen the report, by the way, and we have a great relationship with the Qataris. It's just
no money has exchanged hands. Iran has not gotten a single dollar from any Gulf partners. Okay, and again, lots of criticism from the Republican side of this as well. It is a bipartisan concern.
Well, I think, look, some of the criticism comes from the fact that if Donald Trump were elected the supreme leader of Iran, the Democrats would still say that the United States had lost this.
J.D. Vance rocketing back up to the charts of prominent 2028 frontrunner in the Republican Party. I think all he had to do was a day of media. J.D. Vance very wisely kept his cards close to the chest as Iran, which was not a particularly popular engagement for the president and the administration, as that settled And as the hot blood settled there, and it has, and now J.D. Vance is doing the consolidation, adult in the room, therapy conversations with some of the people who lost their minds, and then going into the viper's pit of The View and even wooing them and their audience and his genius. And Jessica Tavlov, how do you pronounce her last name? Tavlov. Even doing a number on her, but being calm, being organized, being concise, being polite and likable. And J.D. Vance has done incredible work. He was very quiet there for a while. Rubio obviously skyrocketed during that time. Rubio was getting there was a lot of efforting being put around Rubio, and I think that's what's going to happen. What's going to happen is there's going to be a push for Rubio and a push for JD. I want to prepare you for this. Rubio said he would never run against JD. I think that's definitely not going to happen. I think that is going to happen. I think there's going to be like a very aggressive push to consolidate around. It's going to be more of like let's just call it a muscular, potentially neocon policies around Marco Rubio. It's not a knock on Marco Rubio. I like Marco Rubio a lot. I think Marco Rubio is probably the most improved player, on the entire team, maybe the MVP as well on Team Trump right now. He's just done unbelievable work. J.D. Vance has also done unbelievable work. But there's going to be a push to have a more of a America First non-interventionalist J.D. Vance versus an interventionalist architect Marco Rubio. And this is why I think right now you're starting to see Donald Trump slam them together and say, no, run as a ticket, run together, and you'll get the best of both worlds. We'll see. The two men obviously very much like each other. J.D. Vance swore in Marco Rubio. They care about each other. We'll see. Marco says, I would never run against J.D. Vance for president. I don't believe that. We'll see. I like them both. And I don't know what's going to happen. I just know the realities and the gravity of politics. The gravity of politics, I'm well versed in the physics of all of that. I know that there are a large contingency of people that are going to push Marco over JD and then JD over Marco. So that's going to be the split. We'll see how it shapes up. But remain a team player. So this was me doing that on Fox News last night. Again, we await Donald Trump and a live Tarlov. We await Donald Trump and a live press conference from the president with the reporters of the world. Should be very newsworthy. Here we are in our suit. I keep asking people, should I wear a suit for the show, for this live stream? And everybody keeps telling me no. After this, we're going to do Benny in the chat, and we'll just take questions until the president pops on and takes questions, okay? So here we are on Fox News last night saying, why don't you run Joe Biden? Joe Biden still has another term left in him. Come on, Dems, run Joe Biden. Run Hillary! Come on. Both Hillary and Joe Biden have been running for president like effectively since the 70s. Come on, you can do it. Here we go.
Benny Johnson's the host of the Benny Johnson Show. Very interesting that Kamala's top competitor in the 2028 Democrat primary, the family's under investigation in California. There must be a coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows better with the power of whistleblowers than Hillary Clinton, given her experience in the White House. And I got to tell you, it looks like she was licking her chops going after Joe Biden. You could see it, Jesse. Hillary Clinton wanted to be president. She wanted to run again. And I feel like this is a great opportunity to remind the Democratic Party in this rat eat rat, Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm spiral downward that their party is in, that Hillary Clinton can still run again, Jesse. She's not term limited. So can Biden. Biden can hit it again. Go for it, bro. It'd be your fourth, fifth time running for president. You've been running since the Jimmy Carter era. Go for it, buddy. What do you have to lose? Hillary can run. It's an open field. By the time we're done with this, Jesse, I think it's going to be Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau at the top of the Democrat ticket in 2028. J.D. Vance, by the way, showing range today. way. This is incredible. I know that your show does exponentially more views than The View, yet you never got Kamala Harris to come on your program. You never got any big-time, huge Democrat names. It's incredible that J.D. Vance goes in and does this. And by the way, it'd just be them against you. And you're very nice, Jesse.
I'm a pussycat.
You're a very nice person. So it's right. Every Democrat would be welcome, I'm sure, to come on your program, but they don't. J.D. Vance going into the Viper's Nest today and really wooing the women. I mean, they applauded for him. He made them laugh. He got memes out of it. He ended up smelling like roses here. And it just showed incredible range. And you just sat next to him during a mock presidential debate with Kamala Harris a couple of hours ago on the 5 with Jessica. How did that go? You were able to see his skills up close.
You know, he was very diplomatic. I learned some things on how to deal with Jessica. Maybe not point fingers into her face or raise my voice so much or make personal insults. But he does have a way of disarming people, like what he did with Tampon. Tampon thought he was going to come out and JD was going to be fire and brimstone. But you know what? He was smooth. And it ends up working for him because people end up liking him. And likability, as you know in politics, it's like the top attribute.
It's a massive attribute. Nobody liked Hillary Clinton. Nobody liked Joe Biden. Nobody likes Kamala Harris. It's fun to see them all go after each other. It'll be amazing to see what happens in 2028. We're just cheering for more UFCs at the White House. We missed you there, Jesse. It was a total bummer. I was looking around. I was like, where's Jesse? But I do have a bit of an acknowledgement because someone asked me today, what would happen if Democrats got the White House? Would they throw a UFC? They wouldn't, because there's no testosterone in the Democrat Party. They'd have to throw a sumo match between Chris Christie and J.B. Pritzker.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I couldn't make it. I was at the beach, but okay. You know, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. Did you like that knockout, that one, that heavyweight? What was the black guy that got his clock cleaned? I turned it off at around 10:40 after that.
It was incredible. Lewis. It was a restoration of Western civilization. And yes, it was a restoration of Western civilization, masculinity, bringing the Colosseum back. We love the fighting spirit in America. We love violence, and we love the ability to see the absolute echelons of human performance. And that is what we saw, a return to masculinity in America. It was a beautiful thing, Jesse.
All right. Well, maybe if Gavin wins the White House, there'll be figure skating on the lawn. We'll see. Hopefully that never happens.
Transgender figure skating.
Of course,
right.
Obviously.
Yeah, that's right.
Men against women. See you later.
You know what? You get invited to do these things. It's such an honor, and we're very thankful for our allies and friends that make this kind of stuff possible, and the team here. I'm like, I should have gone scorched earth on Gavin Newsom. Why didn't I do that? The entire monologue leading up to it was about sort of the chaos of the full Democrat Party and talking about Hillary and Biden pretty heavily and Kamala. I'm like, I should have just gone scorched earth on be smart. Be smart. We've been running kind of redlining the last couple of days, so I gotta lock in. But I like doing it. We can work on it live on the show together. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we don't got Trump yet, huh? Okay. We do indeed love violence. Yes, that's correct. We don't. So we're still showing the holding screen for President Trump. Very interesting here. There you go. Okay. We still have holding screen for Trump. This is the top of the Daily Mail right now. Surprising compliment. J.D. Vance gets endorsement from The View for 2028. J.D. Vance gets shocked 2028 endorsement after a sit-down with The View. Joy Behar reveals that she encouraged J.D. Vance to run for president following his animated sit-down with The View. Great. The Lifetime liberal host offered her vice president's compliment after their interview. Behar said it would be interesting to see the Republican in the running during an appearance on the Behind the Table podcast later that day. I'm getting a note here you told him during the break that he should run for president because he has a good vibe. What'd I tell you? Look at that. I mean, this is breaking right now because this just went. This was just out. You have that? Okay. And what? He was there to woo. He was there to woo those women. Truthfully, I said at the beginning of this conversation, I don't think that he's a bad guy. So if he runs against, say, Gavin Newsom, it'd be an interesting debate between the two. The both are intelligent. No, they're not. Be an amazing debate, though. Gavin Newsom's a filthy liar, repulsive cockroach. But anyway, it'd be awesome. Yeah, okay, cool. Behar admitted that she doesn't mind a Republican on the city level because she thinks the city of New York needs more discipline. I want somebody with a good heart. And those are more in the Democrat Party, in my opinion. Yeah, okay. This is like the dying, low IQ, smooth-brained thought processes of boomer liberalism, right? That has been like baked and caked into the minds of the generation that has been the most abused by the federal government than any other generation. I just think Democrats are nicer. No, they're not. They're like so much more evil, in fact. They create so much more human suffering. And you are mind rotted and brain rotted by a lifetime of psyops. Think about like the boomer experience. And if you are a boomer watching this, this is no hate. I sympathize with you, your generation. You did not have the same type of like media ecosystem and kinetic capacity to communicate and to knock down these kind of like fake psyops the same way that we do. And I feel bad, but like the government took advantage of you more than any other generation in all human history. I mean, think about every single decade of your life was a new psyop created entirely by the deep state that like you were forced to buy hook, line, and sinker. And maybe you didn't, but the vast majority of boomers did. Starting with your adolescence, the Gulf of Tonkin. That was fake. That got you into the Vietnam War. That mass slaughtered 55,000 of your best men in your generation. That changed your generation forever. That was that mass slaughter, that destruction. That's not just 55,000 dead. That's then also hundreds of millions of young men that were like tortured over there and that lost sort of their id, lost their youth, that lost their capacity to live a pure life without those horrors being visited upon them. That wrecked your generation. And by the way, left your generation to be preyed upon by people like John Kerry or people who were just scum, who either burned their draft cards or like threw their medals and hated their government. It allowed for those people to take control. The patriots all died in the jungles or had their brains broken and bodies broken. And then all of the scumbag, the pussy, drug smoking, hippie liberals, like those guys then started running your generation. Then more psyops. Richard Nixon, Watergate. That happened in the 70s. That's a massive psyop. That was fake. Richard Nixon, the most popular president in your lifetime or mine. Won 49 states. Won in the most sweeping landslide. On ending the Vietnam War. Richard Nixon, Watergate. Total psyop. They stole the presidency from him. We have the psyops of Gulf War I, Gulf War II, Global War on Terror, September 11th, the Patriot Act, COVID, every single subsequent generation. Bill Clinton started bombing Bosnia, bombed an aspirin factory in Bosnia when he was caught getting a blowjob in the White House. Like, and you were expected to believe this hook, line, and sinker. And how do we even know this about Bill Clinton? Well, because of the first like media news site, the Drudge Report. Otherwise, we would have never known about it. The corporate media captured and killed that. And just like they captured and killed like the minds of boomers. And it's something that's like been very important to like try and unlock and liberate those minds now because we have the power and the capacity to, and to make sure it doesn't happen to my kids or me. Which of course, anyone can fall for an op. Looks like Trump's getting set here. So cool. But anyway, I have sympathy for the boomer generation. I'm sad about it, but I think we need to call it out. That is the single most psyoped generation in all of human history, in all of American history for sure. They abused this generation, and that's why they all kind of look like this. And they believe in, they believe like sloganism is a very big thing. The slogans don't make sense. And this is how you get like opinions on The View. That being said, Good for her, you know? Like, way to go. You, Joy Behar. She's sitting there endorsing JD Vance. It can, I guess, as Rocky says, everyone can change. You can change. We can change. Everyone can change. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen. We have so here we go. We have let's jump into the let's do in the chat. Please, I would love for it to have it more structured. But let's take chats here, Klein, and as we await the president. Now all the feeds have started, so I think Donald Trump is imminently going to be answering questions. Let's go. Okay. Sorry, Benny. Terrible impression of Rocky. You're right. Not great at impressions. Would never claim that. We're just going to work harder than everybody else. I don't consider myself funnier or smarter. I went to community college. We're just going to work harder. Stop insulting us boomers. Not all of us were stupid enough to believe it. I didn't say you were stupid enough to believe it. I said, if you're watching this program, you probably didn't. But if you want to talk about like as the boomer generation sunsets, right? As like the people that in the boomer generation is considered, what is it, like 1940 to 1960? That if you were born in that era, something like that, right? 1945, right? The end of the World War II to 1965. If you're born in that era, that's what's considered that generation. Listen, great evils were done to you. I feel like you're the victim of like the last great government era of psyoping. And that those systems have like been broken down and will destroy those systems. But unfortunately, like that's what happened to this generation. God loves boomers. God loves everyone. Again, I'm not like a boomer hater. I'm saying that unfortunately there are evil oligarchs in our government that took advantage of the lack of an informational ecosystem to check their power. And they attacked your generation specifically. And also, as I regularly say, the worst piece of legislation to ever happen to America is the Hart-Celler Act that opened up our borders to the third world. And that happened because of what is the so-called greatest generation that happened in 1965. The boomers were like 10 years old. That's the worst piece of legislation in American history, maybe world history. Okay. I'm a MAGA boomer and proud of it. Good. Awesome. The vast majority of boomers voted for Donald Trump. I'm not a boomer hater at all. Democrats are hive-minded and live in a utopian, delusional bubble, except for their places aren't utopian. If you go to Democrat cities like Seattle, Detroit, Los Angeles, New York. Actually, Detroit, weirdly, Detroit's gotten like way better. Something crazy happened with Detroit. They got so bad. Detroit got so bad, and then like everything got burned to ash, and then they rebuilt. And actually, Detroit's a really cool town now. So I guess you can save these places. Whoa. Not all boomers fell for that crap. No, they didn't. The boomer rant apparently is triggering. I'm not saying that you fell for all that. I'm saying that you can go every 10-year block. There's like there's like some massive lie that was sold to the public consciousness that was roundly believed by everyone in the public. Gulf of Tonkin, Watergate, some of the greater overall, like the reason we have an Iran problem right now was actually because of CIA meddling in Iran and because of how mismanaged all of Iran was. Cuban Missile Crisis, Gulf Wars, global war on terror, September 11th, bombing of Bosnia, Patriot Act, COVID, PSYOP after PSYOP after PSYOP. Every 10 years, there's like this massive PSYOP operation that I think that like we're actually getting a lot more resistant, but unfortunately, unfortunately, that is what the government did to this generation. And the reason why the show even exists is to make sure that they can't continue to do it to other generations. My boomer sister is not like that at all. I agree. I love boomers. I'm talking about how the government treats specific generations, especially generations that don't have the type of access to like the chat that we have right now. Here we go. Two bag hag. I'm not sure if you're talking about me or Joy Behar, but there we go. Not every boomer is psyoped. Please, a lot of boomers are MAGA. I love boomers. I'm just talking about the evils of our government and that they sold a bunch of lies. Watergate was a lie. They psyoped and lied us into war. And it's not exclusive to the boomers. They did this with the USS Maine to start the Spanish-American War in the 1800s, right? They did this at Fort Sumter in the Civil War, right? Like using these kind of things to propagate and drag a generation into war. That's like a tale as old as time, right? That just is what it is. Too bad. Thank you for supporting the channel. Good Lord Benny, not only are you making me feel old, you're depressing me. I don't know, man. I just like, I want to talk like I'm a millennial, right? So I was born, like millennials were you born in 1980 to the year 2000. That's what's considered, think millennials, okay? And so I was born right smack dab in the middle of that, grew up in the 90s, love it. But like, there's plenty of things that I'm like utterly ashamed of my generation for. Tons of millennials did also buy COVID, hook, line, and sinker, right? It's not been a great run for us, but along with Gen X are trying to fix that. Gen X voted for Trump. Millennial men voted for Trump overwhelmingly. Young men voted for Trump. Trump won an outright majority of 18 to 29-year-olds, young men. That's how this is how you fix a generation. You talk about these problems. You talk about these lies so we're not as susceptible to them. Joy Behar is very manly. As manly as Michelle Obama? I'm not sure. I don't know. Don't start ginger. Well, I don't know. I'm not a ginger, but yeah. Can we change what's on the screen, Benny? Sure. I would love nothing more than to take the Donald Trump press conference live. It is now 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. Here is what we have for the Donald Trump press conference. Yep. I was born in the 60s. Someone somewhere called us the generation of Jones. Most of us didn't like the boomers. Well, the 60s actually isn't like the 60s is considered Generation X. 60s to 1980. If you were born from 1960 to 1980, you're considered Gen X. That's what Gen X is. A lot of meth was given to the troops in Vietnam. That's exactly right. They broke those boys. They destroyed them. They destroyed the best. They do this. This is what war does. War goes and robs the best young men of a generation. Who goes off and fights the wars? The men who are brave, honorable, physically capable. The men who love their country. Who goes off and fights the wars? And then the wars slaughter those men. And who's left for the women? The predatory weakling? The man who is not a patriot? The cockroach? The snake? This is what's left, you know? This sort of like tambourine hippie scumbag who hates his country. That's what was left. They went and they took, in the boomer generation, the best men and they slaughtered them. That's why I'm anti-war. Whoa.
Thank you. That's a lot of press. That's good. We had a great event. This was something very special.
Here we go.
I want to thank
We're live.
President Macron, Bridget, his really lovely wife, fantastic person, for welcoming us to France for an extremely successful G7 summit. I would say it's one of the most successful. And this meeting could not have come at a better time. On Sunday, we reached an agreement with Iran that achieves everything we set out to accomplish, everything and much more. Ending the current conflict, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and preventing Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. That's what it was all about. That was about 99%. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They can't develop it, buy it. They can never have a nuclear weapon. At the same time, with this announcement, or close to it, as people started to think it was going to happen when Iran was making some very positive statements, the stock market has surged to record highs, picking up thousands of points over the last short period of time, thousands of points. And oil is dropping like it has never dropped before, at levels that went in numbers, down $7, down $8. They've never seen anything like that. But if we didn't do this deal, we could have dropped more bombs for another 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 years. You would never have the Hormuz Strait open. You would never have success. Your market would have, instead of going up at levels that nobody's ever seen before, would go down at levels that nobody ever saw before, maybe except for 1929 or whatever. And, you know, all the tough guys don't realize that this wasn't a 3-month deal. This was years in the making. You know why? Because I was the one that killed General Soleimani. And if I didn't kill General Soleimani, we probably wouldn't be talking right now about this deal, because he was a mad genius. They never were able to replace him. But a lot of people forget that. The tough guys, you know, the tough guys that would drive the country right down the tubes. The past 2 days have provided a chance to discuss the details of this historic agreement with many of our closest friends and allies, including the G7 nations and many presidents and prime ministers, as you saw. Prime Minister Modi was here. We had a long talk. He's a great guy. They are thrilled that we made a deal, every one of them. There's not one nation that came to us and said, please, sir, keep dropping bombs on them. Please keep dropping bombs. The stupid people say that. But I'm thrilled to report, and by the way, those last 2 days were brutal. $200 million worth of bombs. And, you know, it is expensive, too, by the way, aside from everything else. And they knew I was coming for a third night. We informed them we're coming for a third night. They didn't have their Navy. It's sunk. They didn't have their Air Force. It's gone. Not one plane. They didn't have anti-aircraft equipment, so we got free reign. They didn't have their leaders. But they have a new group of leaders that I think is, actually, I think they're smarter. I think they're very smart. I think they're far less radicalized, and I think they're really good. They love their country. You know, you talk about regime change. Nobody will say that, but I guess that's, look, their one set of leaders is all gone. Their second set of leaders is all gone. Their third set of leaders a little bit gone, but for the most part, and frankly, I think that's regime change. I think they're going to behave much differently. I think they see a different way of life that they were never exposed to. So the one thing I didn't want to see is I didn't want to see economic catastrophe. If you kept this going, that could have happened. But all I know is every time we talked about the possibility of peace, the stock market shot up like a rocket ship. It never went down. They didn't like it. The people, you know, the stock market is more brilliant than anybody there is, including the people on the stage, other than me, of course. Let's see. I don't know. What do you think, Scott? Is the stock market more brilliant than you?
No, sir.
Oh, that's a terrible statement. All right. The stock market is quite brilliant. And every time we said something amazing, like we're going to settle, it would go up. And every time we said something negative, like, guess what, we're not going to be able to settle, it would go down very big, Peter, very, very big. Tells you something. And you know, I've studied presidents, some good, some bad, some great. Not too many are great, and some really bad. We had one just recently. And the one president I did not want to be was the late, great Herbert Hoover. I didn't want that, and who knows what would have happened. But bad things happen, so the past few days have provided a chance to discuss the details of the deal with the closest friends and allies, the heads of countries. They were all here, a lot of them, far more than the 7, as you know, a lot of them. And they put out a statement. I think President Macron, who did a great job, by the way, did a really fan, him and Bridget, they did a great job, but they all put out statements saying they love this deal because they want to see it over. And they love the fact that the hormones, don't forget, if we were going to drop bombs, let's say we went another month, another 2, 3 months, maybe weeks, could be another 3 months, could be whatever. What do you have left? That may be nothing, but you don't have, the strait will never be open because people that own billion-dollar ships, these ships cost $1 billion. They don't like sailing ships or having their ships participate when you go up the coast and you go through the strait and there are rockets flying over your head. They want to protect their $1 billion investment. You wouldn't have oil for maybe years. These are stupid people. But nobody was tougher than me. Nobody hit Soleimani. You know, when I hit Soleimani, people thought that was the biggest thing to happen in the Middle East for 50 years. That was the biggest event. He was the boss of Iran and respected, but he was a mad genius. He was a genius, the father of the roadside bomb. When you see young men, and in some cases women, mostly men, walking around without legs, without arms, with a face that's been blown to smithereens, it's Soleimani, 95%, 96.2 they say or something, 95%. That was Soleimani did it. Happened to come from Iran, and I blew him up. You remember that? I blew him up in the Valley of Death. He got off his plane, and we followed him, and in all fairness, because they've been wonderful to me, Israel, but they didn't want to do that attack. They were all set. The night before the attack, they informed me they didn't want to do it, so I had to make a decision. I made the decision to do it. But it was a joint venture, as we say in the real estate business. That was a joint venture between Israel and us. We studied it for a month. We knew what plane he was going to be on almost a month before. He only traveled on commercial airliners, the big ones with lots of people, because he knew we wouldn't shoot him down. He's very smart. But we knew he was going to be on that plane, followed him, and then Israel informed me that they won't do it. And I had to make a decision. I had some very good generals, and not the ones you see on television, very good. And I want to thank also Pete Hegseth and General Raisin Kane, who's phenomenal. Okay, these guys are phenomenal. They can't be better. But I had some good generals, and I said to them, well, if Israel's not going to do it, we're all prepared. Do we do it? Do you like doing it or not? He says, sir, if you want to do it, we can do it. How well? We'll do it just as well or better. Do it ourselves. We don't need anybody. So we took out Soleimani. One of the biggest events to happen, the Middle East, maybe ever, but they say 50 years, they say 100 years. I was with the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He said it's maybe the biggest event that has ever taken place. Nobody could believe it. So that's when it started. It didn't start like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks ago. And Obama wouldn't do it. What Obama did was he did the JCPOA. He loaded up a plane with $1.7 billion in green cash from banks all over Washington, Maryland, and Virginia. They were stripped of all their cash. They had no cash to do payrolls. It all went into a Boeing 757, a wonderful plane, and they flew it to Iran. And they gave it out to people. They bribed people. They thought they were going to get it done. Then they gave billions and billions of dollars after that. And they got a deal that was a road to a nuclear weapon. I get so angry, I guess. I'm allowed to get angry when I watch the Democrats. They talk about it all the time. We had this deal done. You had a deal that was going to give them legally a nuclear weapon. And if that happened, Israel would have been blown away. And in all fairness to Bibi Netanyahu, who happens to be a good man, gets a little excited sometimes. But he happens to be a very good man. We've had an amazing partnership. He's been an amazing prime minister. We have a little dispute over Lebanon. I say, you can do a little softer touch, Bibi. You don't have to knock down a building every time somebody walks into it that's from Hezbollah. But it's been an amazing partnership. But he will say, we're the big partner, and he's the very small partner, and that's true. So he came to the country, and he begged Barack Hussein Obama, the president, not to do the JCPOA. He said it could be the end of Israel, and it would have been if I didn't come along. And Obama didn't listen to him. Bibi actually went to Congress and pleaded with them, and he got nowhere. And they had this horrible deal that was horrible for Israel, and that's where it stood. And then I came along and I terminated that deal. It had very little time left. You know, it was a short-term deal. You know, with countries, you need hundreds of years. You don't need 8 years and 9 years. This isn't like you're signing a lease on a candy store at the corner. You need hundreds of years. This was a short-term lease. It expired long ago. Had I let it run, it expired. You wouldn't have been around. A lot of people wouldn't have been around. But Israel would have been terminated. I think the whole Middle East would have been terminated. You saw that when everybody was shocked that all these missiles, they were aimed at these different places. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE. Think of it. Bahrain, Kuwait. They got hit. Nobody thought that was, even I didn't think it was going to happen. They didn't think it was going to happen. They were going to take out the entire Middle East, including Israel. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it within moments after getting it. So I made it very tough for them when I terminated the Barack Hussein Obama catastrophe. JCPOA, one of the worst deals. NAFTA might have been worse, but that was worse economically. This deal was really dangerous, what he did. He gave them everything, including a lot of money, which we don't give them, by the way, just in case you have any question. We'll be giving this out so you can read it and you can see. And it's a memorandum of understanding. If it doesn't get done in 60 days, that's all right. We go back to bombing. You know, I don't want to do that because it's so good. But we might have to because we're never going to let them have a nuclear weapon. But they've agreed not to, and you'll see that very clearly in the agreement. But then the second phase of that was they were building, or they were enriching material, as they say. I call it nuclear dust. They were enriching material under granite mountains. Granite being, for those not in the construction business, granite being a very strong, the strongest stone. It's not as pretty as marble, but it's much stronger. It's a lot stronger. Like the new granite I put on the stairs of the White House going to the Oval Office, the black granite, it's rated 1 million years plus. No marble's rated that. Marble's rated 100 years if it's outside. So these are granite mountains, and the B-2s came along and they hit those air shafts in the dark at 1 o'clock in the morning with no moon. They had a beam going right up everywhere. Those guys did a job, and then they were criticized by certain members of the press, like CNN, for possibly not doing that much damage. And it turned out that the damage was far greater. Those mountains collapsed right on top of everything. Nobody's going to get that for a long time. Unless we want to get it, we'll get it. But we're the only ones that can. And they say China has the equipment to get it, and we have the equipment to get it. And it's actually not valuable. Not a lot of value, but we'd like to get it psychologically, but nobody's touching it. We also have cameras. That's what Space Force is. We have the greatest military in the world, by the way. But I'm proud of Space Force because I started it. We have Space Force cameras on every single door, well, there are no doors. They've been pretty well shattered, but every area of that. If somebody walks in and he's got a badge with his name on it, like Mohammed something, which is about a 50-50 guess, Mohammed something, they can tell the name They can give you a serial number. We can see things you wouldn't believe, the quality of the stuff that we have. That's why we've been so successful. That's why our blockade will go down in the annals of history as being unbelievable. Nobody's ever seen a blockade like that. It's like a steel wall. So what happened is we then terminated that, and I call it the nuclear dust, and that was the end of that. But if we didn't hit that with the B-2 bombers, or if it wasn't successful, they would have had a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb at a very high level, not the highest, but it would have been a very high level. We have much bigger, but we hope that we're never going to have to use it. We have the most. Russia has second. China is very far behind, but going to catch up, unfortunately. You know, they're catching up, but we have the most. We have the most powerful, but we also have the most. But Russia's not far behind. And then you have China in third place, but within 5 years, they'll be probably even. And we ought to make a denuclearization deal. It would be so great. We don't need all of that. We don't need to be able to blow up the whole world 300 times over. It's terrible. Really, if we could do a denuke deal, I'd love it. And one of those two is very willing to do it, I will tell you, but the other one is less willing to do it, and you need all of them. So the deal we reached with Iran on Sunday will be signed shortly, tomorrow, maybe the next day. Subject deals. All my whole life is all about deals. That's all I ever did is make deals, and crazy things happen with deals. I've gone into deals where it's a guarantee. No way it can not be signed, and it doesn't get signed. And I've gone into deals that you have no chance of making, and they go like nothing. So, but we're going to most likely sign a deal. They want to sign a deal, and they've been acting very appropriately. They took a big 2 hits last week. Those were 2 very big hits. So, importantly, Iran has agreed that they will neither produce nor procure a nuclear weapon. Neither produce, because originally they said they talk about that they will not develop a nuclear weapon, and some people found it okay. These guys didn't, in all fairness, but some people. But I didn't like it. Said it won't develop. I said, what happens if they should buy? I don't know. It's very dangerous for somebody to sell, because whoever sells them a nuclear weapon will get nuked themselves. If they sold a nuclear weapon, only a few that could do it, they would be nuked. They wouldn't have that country long. So it's a very dangerous thing for somebody to do. But I wanted it in there. So it's develop, procure, buy, anything. And you'll see that when you see the agreement, but it's appropriate that we release the agreement. And we did send a copy to Israel, by the way. They've been a good partner. Again, I think they could do better with respect to Hezbollah. I'm not saying they shouldn't protect themselves. I'm saying when 2 drones are shot into the desert and drop harmlessly, you don't have to knock down buildings in Beirut. They could behave better. And frankly, they could do a better job. I love them as a partner. They were terrific. But they could do a much better job with Hezbollah. On that, I don't think they're doing well. And I feel very bad for Lebanon. Lebanon's been, it was a great culture. They had the professors, the doctors, the lawyers. It was an incredible culture, maybe the highest in the Middle East for years and years, centuries. And for the last 50, 60 years, they have been just trashed. They have been living in hell. So they'll work closely with us to turn over the so-called enriched material that's very deep in the bowels of the earth, very deep. Nobody can get it. So it's not important that we do it quickly, but we could do it fairly quickly. When we have a chance, we'll do it. But in the meantime, we have cameras on every inch of it. Nobody can do it. And if they do, we'll hit them with Patriots. That's all. And they'll be gone. And they know that. Technical discussions on the removal of all stockpiles of enriched materials will begin immediately. We're going to start that immediately. And unlike Barack Hussein Obama, who sent Iran pallets of cash, and any relief they receive under this deal, they'll have to get based on merit. And it won't be from us. We don't have to give them anything. But some people may want to invest. Like, what are you going to do? Say you can never, ever invest in a country? I mean, it's pretty tough. I don't mind being tough, but it's pretty crazy. You can invest in a country. You can invest in any country you want, but you can't invest there. Well, they need investment because we did $1.5 trillion, maybe $2 trillion worth of damage. So somebody's going to have to help them out. There's no guarantee about helping them out, and could be their neighbors will help them out a little bit. I don't know. But it's a lot of money. Almost nobody has that kind of money. That's the kind of damage that was done. But we're not investing any money. There was a fake story. There was a fake news story that got a man, a person, a good person. J.D. made a statement. It was a perfect statement. And they reported it in a very strange way. But that's why it's fake news, I guess. So we don't give them money. We don't give them any of that. And what happens is with time, if they behave, if they be a citizen of the world, a reasonable citizen of the world. And I think this group, again, I didn't do this for regime change, but I think this group is regime change. I mean, hey, the first group is dead. One little morning, having breakfast, the whole group, they thought they'd never be caught because we never bombed during breakfast, but we bombed. And they all, 88 people. And I'm not proud of it at all. But the second group came in and they were very unreasonable too. And they were all gone. They were all gone. And then the third group, we've been dealing with them. A couple left this planet, but we've been dealing with them. And again, they've been fine. I mean, I've had a lot easier. I've had some easier ones. They're tough, they're smart. Maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has already increased very substantially, and the normal flow of energy will resume in the coming days, and trillions of dollars will be made by the world, and the stock market will, I believe, continue to rise. The only difference is that a player that's very volatile, very tough, very smart, frankly, they have, in one way, a primitive culture, but it's also a genius primitive culture. They're very smart people, very good negotiators, but so are we. So rather than possibly going into a depression, rather than having your favorite president be Herbert Hoover, I was always the one I didn't want to be. I wouldn't have preferred Nixon. I wouldn't have preferred, there were plenty I wouldn't prefer, but the one I always thought of, Herbert Hoover, and he caused it. He raised taxes too fast, and he raised interest rates too fast, all at the same time. And it caused the Great Depression. So I don't think I'll make mistakes like that. I lower taxes, I don't raise taxes. In fact, we just gave you the largest tax decrease, largest tax cut in the history of our country. So we'll be working on a parallel effort with the Gulf nations to address non-nuclear issues such as the conventional ballistic missiles, which we'll be talking about, and support. I mean, they have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some. Somebody said you shouldn't give them one. And I have guys. I like some of these guys, but I don't think they're smart. Sir, you shouldn't let them have any missile. I said, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to let Saudi Arabia have missiles, but they can't have them? Yes, sir. It doesn't work that way, It doesn't work that way. And missiles aren't the problem. Missiles they hurt a little location, but they don't blow up the planet. So the Gulf nations will address the non-nuclear issues. We'll be talking about the ballistic missiles, and we'll talk also about the terrorist proxies that they have, that we don't want that to happen. But I want to thank our partners in both Pakistan and Qatar. These people work so hard. And they knew them a little bit. In the case of Pakistan, quite well. In the case of Qatar, they were sort of at odds. And, Qatar was great because they had right next door. When I flew from that location to Saudi Arabia, I'd fly for 40 minutes, and I'd fly to UAE for 40 minutes, two great leaders there, by the way. In the case of Saudi Arabia, the father's still alive, and he's fantastic, and the son is going to be great. He's going to be great. The Crown Prince and Mohammed at UAE is an incredible warrior. He was dropping bombs. Last week I said, who the hell's dropping all those bombs? It was UAE. He's a good fighter, Mohammed. But every administration for decades has sought to get Iran to relinquish its nuclear ambitions, but the threat only got bigger. The words got bigger and bigger and stronger and bigger, and nothing ever happened. And Iran got stronger and tougher. If we didn't blow them up the first time and then blow out those weapons, they would have been unstoppable. This should have done, what I'm doing and what I did should have been done years ago. Would have been much easier, much less firepower. But it wasn't. And again, I want to thank all those countries, and I want to thank Israel and Bibi Netanyahu. So obviously the breakthrough would not have been possible without the unprecedented pressure the United States put on the regime over the past year and a half. But again, it started a long time ago. It started with the death of Soleimani. That was a big deal. No president in history has ever been tougher on Iran than I have, and they know that. And by the way, if they don't honor the agreement, or some things aren't even mentioned in the agreement, it's a memorandum of understanding, but we have an understanding of certain things without writing it. And if they don't honor that, we'll probably go back to bombing them until they honor it. You know, it's amazing what bombs can do. So I say it. The Obama deal was a road to a nuclear weapon, and let's call it the Trump deal, was a wall for a nuclear weapon that the nuclear weapon could not get through. Nobody's going to get through it. We built a wall. They weren't going to have it, and that's what we have right now. And it says very clearly, the most important clause to me, too, number one, the Strait opens, but that's much less important than the other clause, clause number whatever, 5, 8, is a very strong statement that they will never have a nuclear weapon. And it doesn't say they'll have one in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. With Obama, they were able to enrich very quickly. This agreement now provides Iran with a historic opportunity. If they follow the path of cooperation, will have opened for them, their country will have a chance to survive. Now think of it, you know, they have 91 million people. People want me to bomb the bridges. Why don't I bomb? I already did, because, you know, they went back on one of their promises, and I bombed their biggest bridge, the equivalent of that was the George Washington Bridge of Iran. But we bombed that bridge, you saw that. One quick strike by an F-22, the most beautiful fighter jet ever made, by the way. In fact, we're ordering some more of them. We're bringing it out because it's so effective. It's incredible. It's incredible. Well, look, we have the greatest military in the world. Those B-2 bombers are unbelievable. Who would have thought they could handle, each had 2 because the flight was so long, but they handle 3 of the biggest, heaviest bombs, hundreds of thousands of pounds, and they handle them like they're nothing. It's amazing. And also, they're undetectable. They flew into Iran, totally, think of it, totally undetected. Now, Iran's waiting for them. They're waiting for them. And they never saw them. 1 o'clock in the morning, they never saw them. They're stealth. And we just ordered 22 more. The newer, upgraded version, which I guess is better. I don't know how do you get better. But as I expressed to the world leaders here this week, it's my hope that the peace agreement will be the beginning of a much larger deal all across the Middle East. We're very close. Look at the job we've done on Gaza. Look at Hamas. Hamas has been very silent. You haven't read anything about Hamas. And we're trying to get them unarmed. You know, they grew up with a machine gun in their hand. I think they actually, when they were born, they came out with a machine gun in their hand. So it's not the easiest thing, but they've actually, you know, behaved pretty well, considering this was not the lifestyle that they were taught to have. But including an end to all Iranian aggression, and they're not going to be Iranian aggression, and an end to war and terror in Lebanon. So the Lebanon peace is something we'll have to work on a little bit. It's a very small piece of the puzzle, actually, but it still makes a lot of noise. The big deal is the Iran deal. That's where the money is, where the power was. But they have Hezbollah, and you got to get that done one way or the other. We'll do it. I think Israel can do a much better job on it. Syria would love to do it. I was very responsible for the gentleman at Syria that's now the president of Syria. He's done a tremendous job. He's put that country together in a year and a half. sort of like our country, a year and a half. It's pretty similar size. They said, please don't put him there. He's a very violent man. Al-Qaeda. I said, well, I know one thing, a Boy Scout's not going to work. And he's actually done a very good job. He'd love to go in, and Hezbollah is an enemy of his, and he'd go in, but he wouldn't knock down buildings every time he hears there's somebody. He'd just go and get them with precision. But I don't know that people want that. Maybe they don't. Maybe Lebanon doesn't. We have to be guided a little bit by Lebanon. And by the way, the president is going to be coming, Prime Minister, President, going to be coming over to see us very shortly, over the next week or two. Good man. He's, man is living. What a tough life he's got, because he's got tough groups of people. And it's amazing. Amazing there is a Lebanon with all they've been through. They have been treated worse than just about, I think, anybody. Disrespected incredibly. So the expansion of the Abraham Accords is the other thing that we hope we're going to get. And I think Saudi Arabia, if they lead the way, they'd be doing themselves a big favor, because everybody that's in it, UAE went in right from the beginning. Again, he's a warrior. And they never got out. Nobody ever got out. You think maybe during the war, they were all afraid of, everybody was afraid of Iran. And that's why we ended up with the original members. But then when the election was rigged, that's right, and I wasn't here at all, nobody cared about anything. The country went to hell in every way. That was the least of it. Middle East was the least of the country went to hell, allowing 25 million people into the country, unchecked and unvetted, many of them criminals, many of them murderers, 11,888 murderers allowed into our country. So this was the least of it. But the past 2 days have also provided an opportunity to discuss a number of other key issues with members of the G7 and our partners. Yesterday morning, we had a productive conversation on the war in Ukraine. I spoke with President Putin. I spoke with President Zelensky, and he was there. And President Putin I spoke over the phone with. And something's going to happen. They're losing a lot of people, a lot of soldiers are losing soldiers. Both are losing a lot. Russia's losing more because they're the offensive ones. And when you're offensive in war, you lose more. Pretty simple. But I provided an update on my call Sunday with President Putin and expressed my continued hope. We had a very good conversation with President Putin and a very, very good conversation with President Zelensky. I think they both want to do something. They just don't know how to do it. They want to do it. They just don't know how. In our session yesterday afternoon on international partnerships, I offered an update on how the United States is leading the world in responding to the Ebola outbreak in Africa, sending $375 million in aid so far to help stop and contain the crisis at its source. And we've done great. I was with the president of a couple of presidents came over, by the way, from African nations, and they were so happy with what we did. But where it's unfair is we gave $375 million. The rest of the world gave essentially nothing, maybe a couple of bucks, but nothing. And they were all saying, thank you so much. And I think they've done a good job. It's a terrible thing. Ebola is a terrible thing. That's an unbelievable one. Fortunately, it's not like COVID where it's that easy to spread around, but it's rough. And we've done a good job. We've moved people to certain quarantines, certain locations. But today we also had excellent meetings on the economy and artificial intelligence, which is amazing what's going on with that. It's going to be the biggest thing ever. We have to be very careful with it. It's both great and could be bad. We have to be careful with it. But we're leading China. We're leading the world on that. We're allowing them to do their own electric plants because they need, as an example, those buildings are so big. And they're not taking the community's electricity. I gave them the right. It's my idea. I gave them the right to build electric plants like Con Edison in New York. Dig we must. And they've come up with plants that nobody's ever seen anything like them. Those are by very high IQ people. So they're actually building electric plants. So because otherwise they could never build a building because the grid is old and tired and broken and a mess. So they're building it, and they're going to sell very cheaply. They're going to sell their extra electricity into the grid. So we take care of a lot of things, like California, which doesn't have nearly enough electricity. They don't know what they're doing there. And instead of having blackouts and brownouts, they'll be able not to. We found a great deal of unity here at the G7, and we signed a declaration on illegal immigration, the first time ever for a G7 statement. They did a beautiful statement. We signed other agreements to step up and to really coordinate and spend a lot of time coordinating drug trafficking and the stopping of drug trafficking, which is crazy. It comes through Mexico, comes through the southern border, the little that comes through. They find a way, they put it, they're genius. If they would use that genius for good, they'd be very rich people. They have it in engines, they have it in hubcaps, they have it in areas you wouldn't even believe. They have it in the structures of cars. Most incredible thing. But we've done a great job on it. We have drugs coming through the border are down 61%. Drugs coming through water, the sea, ocean, sea, Gulf, down 97.2%. That's the ones that get hit. Just like we hit the Iranian minesweepers and mine droppers, they call them. They dropped. Who would have 28 mine droppers? Who has 28 mine droppers? They actually had them, but they don't have them anymore. We hit them just like we hit the drug dealers. But drugs are down by water 97%, and over 60% they're down. And now we're going to go and focus on the land. They come through Mexico. Mexico has lost control of their country. The cartels run Mexico, and it's sad. And the president's a very good woman, but she's a very scared woman. The drug cartels are totally running Mexico. It's not even close. We agreed to accelerate our efforts to secure our critical minerals and rare earth supply chains, where we have great companies really going to town. We're going to give everybody a big run because we do it better than, and we had to get motivated. The G7 also agreed that the United States' new approach to international development based on the private sector investment is working at levels that they never thought possible. It's really working. I held a number of very positive bilateral meetings, including with the President of France. It was a very good meeting, actually. The Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim, who's, I tell you, I wish I could really know the guy. You know, some people say, well, he lived in that neighborhood. You can't be saying things that you'd like to have him say. He was fantastic on this, and he's been a fantastic guy in terms of energy and getting energy out there. President of the United Arab Emirates, Mohammed bin Zayed, who's an amazing warrior. President El-Sisi of Egypt. Prime Minister Modi of India. We spent a long time together today. I spoke to Mohammed. I spoke to the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia a number of times. They're all so happy that they're still. You have to have them happy too, you know. We're using their airports. Not that they could stop us if we didn't want them to, but it'd be nice that I went to get that little sucker. But I missed. I hate missing. But we spoke to all of them and many countries all over the world. They're so, every country, I think Israel too. Look, think of what Israel's getting. They're not going to be nuked. It's very simple. I told Bibi, your biggest risk was that they drop a nuclear weapon into the middle of Israel. They'd only need one, and there would be no more Israel. Think of it, Bibi. You got the best, the most important thing that you were asking for is that. So I think they're happy. Some people are going to be, not him, but there are some people, some writers, some that I thought were friends of mine, but I don't want them as friends anymore because they're either stupid or they're bad people. But we stopped nuclear holocaust, and it stopped too. I mean, there's not going to be any of that. So from the beginning to the end, it was clear that this week, America's back. It's bigger and better and stronger. We're more respected as a country right now, I think, than we ever have been. And we were a laughingstock 2 years ago. They would laugh at us. We had a man that should have never been there. You know that. A man that would walk up to a podium once every year, and they'd ask him, what flavor ice cream do you like? I like vanilla. Then he'd try and find the stairs, which he couldn't find most of the time, and he'd leave. This is very unfair reporting. And then you said you didn't know about that. You didn't know there was something wrong. We can never let that happen to our country again. To me, the worst. We had the worst inflation ever. We had the worst in prices and the costs. It's all coming down now because the oil is bringing it down. You're going to see numbers that are going to be amazing. But this evening, I look forward to a very special dinner with President Macron and his fabulous wife at the Palace of Versailles. I sort of like that palace. Has a lot of gold. I want to check it out. It's a beautiful palace, maybe the most beautiful of all. I hope you're going to get to see it. The ones that are traveling with me, I hope you're going to get to see it because it's amazing. But they asked me if I'd stay a little bit longer and go to Paris. So I'll get home a little bit later, but it'll be a nice dinner. But I'm interested to see it. I mean, that's the ultimate, I guess. It's the ultimate of its type. Louis XIV, celebrating the 250th anniversary of America's founding and America's oldest alliance. And we're celebrating that a little bit tonight. They'll have the biggest people in Europe at the dinner. And those people love our country. And hopefully Europe's going to find its way. Europe is having a lot of hard times. They're doing some things very badly on energy and on immigration. They're doing things very badly. And we'll be talking about that tonight. So with that all said, if you want to ask us any questions, feel free to ask the people behind me. Yeah? Peter?
Bonjour. You've been clear, President Trump, the United States is not going to directly pay Iran, but the U.S. is going to let the Iranians start making billions of dollars, selling oil, accessing this reconstruction fund.
Only if they're doing things right. Peter, only if we're not doing anything. We're not putting up money. Only if they're doing things right. If they're doing things right, if people want to invest, they can invest. But they had this $300 million fund. It's only $300 billion fund. It's only if they're doing things right. Remember this also. When you talk about billions of dollars, they've had much more than $1 trillion worth of damage done. They got a long way. There'll be 15 to 20 years to rebuild what they have right now. So they have to behave themselves. If they're not behaving, they get hit again. You know, they'll be hit again because we can do it very easily. It's going to take a long way for them to build back their anti-aircraft stuff. It's going to take, and you know, the other thing, I want to thank China, President Xi. I was with him, and he stayed neutral, totally neutral, and I appreciate it. And I would want to thank Vladimir Putin. He was very neutral. They could have made it much more difficult for us. And I want to say it. You know, somebody would say, "Oh, that's terrible. He's thinking President Xi of China." Well, let me tell you, I had a long talk with him. You know, they have shoulder weapons to knock down airplanes. That it's not like the real deal, but they're accurate. They're fairly accurate. I said I would really appreciate you're not giving or selling any of that stuff to Iran. And you know what? For the most part, he didn't. So I just want to thank them because they made it a lot better.
Can you explain, though, what the difference is between giving Iran U.S. dollars and unfreezing U.S. dollars for?
Well, the unfreezing is an easy one to answer. We have taken a lot of their money, and we have their money. We have taken their money. It's not our money. It's their money, and we froze it. At a certain point in time, I guess we're going to have to give it back. You know, if we didn't give it back, nobody would ever invest in the dollar again. If you took their money, because I thought about it, you know, I'm not the most perfect person. I said to Scott, why do we keep their money? What the hell are we giving it back to them? But, you know, people from lots of nations, some nations we don't agree with, they have their money. The dollar's become very strong under me. And they don't want to have a little conflict with somebody and end up having the United States just take their money. So if you do that, you really don't have a system.
And I did just want to ask you about this. A wise man once said in January of 2020, Iran never won a war, but never lost a negotiation. that wise man.
Who said that?
Donald Trump.
Oh, that's what I thought you were going to say.
So how do you go back to the United States and convince a skeptical American public that this deal is a win?
Here they lost militarily, okay? It's very tough because I know that no matter what, if I would go, by the way, if I'd go another 3 or 4 weeks, those same people that are critical would say, he went too long, he should have done, no matter what. If they raised the white flag of surrender, and if they said, praise be to Allah, Donald Trump is the greatest president ever. We totally concede. We totally give up. This war is over. We have failed. The New York Times and CNN and a couple of others, they're not all that dishonest. They say Iran had a great victory, okay? And they practically do that. It's amazing. When we knocked out their last ship, they had 159 ships. When we knocked out the last ship, the Times refused to do a story on it. They said, why wouldn't you? They don't have a Navy, and you don't want to do a story on it. They don't have an Air Force. You don't want to do a story. We need a fair press. And that's why they're all doing so badly, because they lost credibility. When I win in a landslide and I had 93% bad press, they take good stories about me and make them bad. But the only reason that happened is because they have so little, the media has so little credibility that the people voted for me. 93% of the stories on network, ABC is horrible. I think ABC is the worst. NBC is terrible. And CBS is terrible. CNN, obviously. And I never get good stories, no matter what I do. I could do the greatest thing. I won't get good stories on this. I'll get it from fair media. I'll get it from all over the world. They're running good. But no matter what I do, I'm going to get bad press. I know that. Now, if I did the opposite, if I went out and continued to bomb them for another 4, just bomb the hell out of them, I'd get bad press on that. No, there's nothing I can do. But what this does is it allows the ships to go. If we keep bombing, those ships won't be going. And you're talking about $500, $600, $700 million a day. It's a lot of money. A lot of money. That's why the world is okay. It's liquid. It's fine. Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. There are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out. And there'll be a time when you wouldn't be able to get it. And you want to see bedlam? So for all those so-called geniuses that want to show me how smart they are, ask them why didn't they blow up General Soleimani? Ask that of the general and a couple of other people that I like very much, but boy, are they wrong. Go ahead. How about you? Thank you, Peter. I'd give you more, Peter, but people will say I like you too much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bonsoir, Mr. President.
He told me that first day in office, he asked me like 7 questions. I answered all of them. Is this true? He said, he just answered more questions in one meeting than Joe Biden did in 4 years. Okay, I'm not going to get you in trouble, but that's what you said. Go ahead.
Bonsoir, Mr. President. In The Art of the Deal, you write about the importance of leverage. Yeah. Obviously, you have a lot of leverage when it comes to Iran, whether it's militarily or through economic sanctions. What leverage, sir, do you have when it comes to Israel and Hezbollah to ensure that they abide by the ceasefire?
Well, I think we have leverage just by the fact that we really have Iran now has to be good. They have to behave. And we might help. That's a much smaller conflict. It's a conflict that should be able to be over with. I'm surprised it's taken so long. And it's a much smaller, but we have a lot of leverage. We have the greatest military anywhere in the world. We have the strongest, most powerful. Look at the blockade. By the way, the blockade was more impactful than all of the bombing raids where we dropped $1 billion worth of bombs on Iran. The blockade was so incredible. The naval blockade, the admiral, the whole thing, not one ship got through. That meant no money got through. They were dying. They had no money. They have inflation that's 250 or 300%. They have no money. We have tremendous leverage. We have the leverage of the economy as an example. We'll get that done. That's a small one, and we'll work with Israel and get it done. But I'd like to do it. I mean, you have people living there. Buildings are being dropped on top of them or right alongside of them. How would you like to live there? It's so unfair, especially Beirut. You go into Beirut, and I looked at the scene 2 days ago, yesterday, where they hit. That was a big hit. That was unnecessary in my book. Yeah, please.
Two questions. If you could clarify something you said just a few minutes ago. One of the goals of Epic Fury going into it, you said was...
Say it again. Speak up.
Sorry. One of the goals of Epic Fury, you said going into it, was to destroy Iran's ballistic missiles and its capabilities to build more.
Yeah.
Why is it acceptable to you now that they keep some of that capability? And
What are they keeping? What are they keeping? They have less than other nations now. We knocked out probably 85% of their missiles. The rest of them are underground. They can't even get them out. You know, the other night's raid, I think it was on the first night, we knocked out hundreds of their missiles. Actually, by mistake, we were hitting an area, and you can sort of see when the bombs are going off, and then you see one that looks like, wow, what happened? A lot of missiles knocked out. No, but what are you going to do? Let's spend another 2 weeks and give them none. They don't want to be firing missiles right now. They're going to have a hard time rebuilding. They're going to have a hard time rebuilding. And if people from the Middle East, if people want to invest, and again, they don't have to invest at all, but if they do want to invest, it does have oil. It does have probably a future, but it's going to take a long time. But are you going to let the 91 million people starve to death? I mean, one of the things I was very intent on, they have water desalination plants, very good ones. I could have knocked them out in 5 minutes, just like I knocked out Cargill, and I knocked out everything but the oil. I said 25, it was so complete. The only thing there is the pipes coming with the oil, because I didn't want to ruin the world market, because they do a lot of money. But I didn't want to do that, no. It would have been so easy. It would have been easier, and I would have satisfied a group of 10% of the people, but it would have been the wrong thing to do. And it could have caused an international depression.
Iran's position,
Maybe not.
Iran's position has always been that their nuclear program was for civilian purposes. If they come back after the signing of this and say they want to continue to have a civilian nuclear program, is that acceptable to you?
Well, I've said to them always, I say, look, you have probably the third largest oil reserves in the world. What the hell do you need nuclear for? You need nuclear for some electricity. So I've always felt that way. So we've been pretty tough on that. It is a little hard, though, when you say that somebody wants it, other people have it, other adjoining states have it, and you're not letting them have it for purposes of electricity and things like that. It's always a little tough. You have to use a little common sense, please. New York Times, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the question. Now that you're approaching a new phase in this conflict with Iran, can you now say whether you will hold anyone in your administration accountable for the strike on a school that killed more than 100 children on the first day of the war?
No, if it was a fault, and as you know, that's under investigation. It's such a strange question to be asked at this state, because you're talking about a long time ago, but nobody did that on purpose. I guess you'd have to say about them, what about the thousands of soldiers that they blew up when they opened their car door? What about the thousands of people that were killed by Iran? No, mistakes are made. The war is nasty. But I know it's under investigation, and I could have a report for you tomorrow. Or I would ask Pete Hegseth that question, because they have it under investigation. Please.
Mr. President, you've been saying all week that this deal permanently prevents Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, but the drafts of the deal that have been floating around barely mention Iran's nuclear program. So can you explain how exactly the deal achieves that goal?
So when I say permanently, it should be permanently. But if it's not permanently, we will bomb them. They will be bombed, just like I bombed them on Wednesday night and Tuesday night, and was going to bomb them on Thursday night at a level that was 3 times greater, and they knew that. I will bomb them. Now, that's with me as president. If you have a weak, pathetic president, maybe that doesn't happen, but I can only do the job that I have to do. I have a long time to go. I have almost 3 years, close to 3 years. Time is going fast. But our country's become we're the most respected country in the world. Those leaders today, they said, we used to laugh at you. 2 years ago, the same guys, they'd laugh at the country. And now they say, you're the most respected country anywhere in the world. Militarily, even military. Take a look at what happened look at what happened in so many different locations. Afghanistan, that horrible retreat that these people made, leaving equipment behind. They weren't under any pressure. You take your time. You can get out. I was going to get out. We were going to get out with dignity and pride, take 100% of the equipment. I was even taking the tents down. But then they got in and they just left. They left all the equipment. I may get all that equipment back. Now, here's the thing. More symbolic, because it's a little old now. But we may get it all back.
So you're threatening...
Afghanistan is kissing our ass. You know that?
So you're threatening to bomb Iran if they don't comply, but there's nothing enforceable in the deal itself. Is that correct?
Doesn't have to be. I let them know. I said, look, if you don't adhere to the agreement, I don't want to do that, but we're going to bomb the hell out of you. And I don't think that they're going to veer from the agreement. What else am I going to do? Am I going to say I'm going to take you to court? Let me take you to court. Let me sue you. No, we're going to bomb the hell out of them if they violate the agreement. I don't want them to. I want them to honor the agreement. Again, the straits closed up. Bad things can happen. You know, in war, terrible things happen. Like you mentioned the question before about the school gets hit. Other things get hit. Bad things happen in war. War is a nasty place. I see it. I see it. I see it better than maybe anybody has ever seen it. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, President Trump. Oil prices are now plummeting. How do you see this agreement further affecting energy prices in the U.S. and the U.S. economy in the long term? And secondly, Mr. President, how do you think Vice President J.D. Vance did on The View yesterday?
Well, first of all, thank you for the word plummeting, because that's what's happening. Oil prices are plummeting. And that means oil prices are going to come down. You know, if you make donuts, you have a heating, you have a stove, and you have to buy the heat, you need the gas or the electricity or whatever you're using. And when oil prices come down, oil is the biggest thing. Oil is, you get oil prices coming down, and they're going to come down. And we're hitting into threes now for gasoline, and that'll come down a lot lower. So I was in Iowa just before this started, and I was saying to myself, I can't believe we're doing so well, but I have to go, and we have to put out this fire in Iran, because I don't want them using a nuclear weapon. They would have used a nuclear weapon. 100% they would have used it. The only question is, was it going to be that day or that week? They would have used a nuclear weapon. They were on the way. And I said, we're going to have to put out the fire. And I said, you know, oil prices, so gasoline, we passed 2 gas stations in Iowa, made a speech up there. The people are great. I won it by so much. And I love the people, farmers. And we passed 2 gas stations. One was $1.85. One was $1.91. Now, that's Iowa. But it was, I mean, California has all those crazy taxes that they put on, you know, California taxes. But the oil was down to $2 to, I'd say, between $2 and $2.50. And it was heading down further. And we were going to have a great run. We took a little journey down to a place called the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we bombed the hell out of them, and now they can never have a nuclear weapon. Now, we had a disturbance, but I must say it was much less than anybody thought. The oil never went to $350 a barrel. It went to $115, $120. The oil never went anywhere near that. And the other thing, I thought the stock market would go down 25 or 30%. The stock market a week ago, before we started this, was higher than it was when we started, which tells you that we have a very resilient economy. We have the strongest economy we've ever had. Now, the word affordability is a fake word made up by the Democrats. Here's where it's fake, because they made it up, because I inherited these prices. And when I had my first news conference, first day, they started screaming affordability, the Democrats. Affordability, affordability, they're screaming. I said, what's that all about? They gave it to me. They gave it to me. It's affordability. And they used that word to a fare thee well. Well, they were the ones that created the affordability crisis. I'm the one that got it down. Remember, highest insurance rates in history, highest rates for everything. Eggs, remember eggs? They were 4 times more expensive than they were in my administration. And I got it down, Peter, very quickly. Our secretary did a good job of agriculture, Brooke. She did a great job with eggs and everything else. And now that the oil is coming down, you're going to see everything follow. Everything follows the cost of energy. And we're going to end up having the lowest energy anywhere in the world. Please. Yeah. No, please.
Thank you.
You're from ABC. You're fake news. Go ahead.
To follow up on oil, can you confirm, will Iran be able to immediately sell their oil to market? And will U.S. sanctions snap back immediately if there is a delay or collapse in the talks? And then relatedly, is there any safeguard in this deal to prevent Iran from charging what they say could be fees after the 60-day extension?
The thing that's going to stop them from doing that, because you can't cover everything in a document, is common sense. They don't want to get bombed. They don't want to get hit. As far as sanctions are concerned, at some point, we have sanctions which will never let them rebuild. They would have no money. They would be in poverty. The 91 million people would starve. So something will happen as soon as they behave. When they behave, we're going to let that go. We're going to have to. I put sanctions on a lot of people, and then I let them go. A lot of countries. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Shinji Abe. I'm a Japanese Yomiuri newspaper company from the Washington Correspondent. My question is about the Strait of Hormuz. Did you ask other G7 nations to send military force? And what specifically are you asking of Japan? Or
where are you from?
I'm from Japan.
From where?
Japan. And is military support?
I just left your prime minister. Japan's doing very well. She's my biggest fan, I have to tell you. She thinks I did a great job. You have to call her and ask her. She's doing a very good job, by the way. Go ahead.
And military support is no longer necessary?
Yeah, but what do you want to know? Go ahead, just tell me. What do you want to know?
Okay. My question is, did you ask other G7 nations to send military force? And what specifically are you asking of Japan?
To send the Air Force? For what? Oh, other countries, not just Japan. No, I don't need. We don't need it. Oh, by the way, they all want to do it. They all want to do it. Every single one of them. They want to go be a part of it now. Not while the war was going on. I was a little disappointed. The UK, I said, yeah, it would be nice if you sent ships. I didn't put a hard sell on, but I said it would be nice if you sent some ships. And the Prime Minister said, they'll be there, sir, as soon as the war is over. I said, did he just say that? I couldn't believe it, actually. Japan has offered to get involved, but I mean, I'll be honest, Japan was not willing to get involved during the war. I asked her, I said, you want to get involved a little bit? I didn't put the heavy sell on, but they said, no, we don't want to get involved. Nobody did. We did it ourselves with Israel and with the Arab states that got hit, surprisingly hit. Yeah. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Mr. President. Question on Brazil. I would like to know, how was your interaction here in Evian during the G7 with the Brazilian President Lula? Did you talk about the new U.S. tariffs on Brazil? Did you talk about the U.S. designation of criminal gangs as terrorists?
We did.
How was it?
I spent a lot of time with him, actually, and it's become a little rough country, right? Politically. It's been a little dangerous politically. You're talking about Brazil, yeah? It's been nasty. I hear they arrested somebody that's running for office today. I found that out after we left. I just said goodbye to him, and I heard that they arrested the Bolsonaro Jr. He was doing well in the polls, and they arrested him because he made a statement in Texas. They arrested him, or they want to arrest him. They have something out for his arrest. No, they play pretty tough. But nobody plays tougher than the United States. Look, our elections are totally rigged. We have rigged elections. Please, in the back. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, President.
Thank you.
Sumu Sakamoto, the Asahi Shimbun. For G7, the concept of the rule of law has long been considered the core principle. During this summit, any of the leaders expressed any concerns on the possible violation of international law on the attack on Iran?
No, actually the opposite. They felt they were very dangerous. They were very relieved because they could get hit too. They were very relieved. No, we never discussed that. No, it would be the opposite. They broke the law. They killed thousands of people. They killed thousands of our soldiers and hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. President,
Yes.
Yesterday, the Pakistan thanks for the Chinese government to help make a peace talk between Iran and the United States. So what do you think about the China's work to get the United States and Iran sitting down to talk and make the deal? And the second question is...
Okay, let me answer the question.
Okay.
So I think China's been terrific. I told you that before. They could have been bad. They could have sent in to try and block or break the blockade. They could have sent in an oil ship with 6 destroyers alongside of it on each side. They didn't do that. President Xi helped me. He tried to help, and I think he probably helped get it solved. You know, they get 50% of their oil from that location. So that wasn't that easy. President Xi was fantastic. He tried to help me solve it. And he didn't give any big weaponry. I guess we'll find something somewhere along the line. But he didn't give any big weaponry, I can tell you that. No, I think China I couldn't ask for much more. Again, they were impacted because they get more than 50% of their oil from the Hormuz Strait. And no, I thought they were fantastic. Okay, how about one more question right here? Go ahead, please.
The latest YouGov Economist poll shows that Democrats have lost a 5-point edge on the generic congressional ballot. They just have now just a 2-point lead since February. Do you think that they're losing momentum?
Well, I see the Republicans in generics. You know, generics are very important. I don't know how accurate, because I see a lot of bad polls. The polls are very dishonest, just like a lot of reporters, like these people over here, are very dishonest. CNN, ABC, it's a whole group of them over there. They're really dishonest people. But, you know, and really networks are very dishonest. And they have to straighten themselves out or they're not going to be very successful because people don't believe them anymore. But no, the generics are very interesting because the Republicans are coming up strong even before this. You know why? They're seeing all these lunatics, like the guy in Maine with the swastika. You know, for 10 years they've been calling me a Nazi. And now they have a Nazi running. He's got a tattoo on him. I've been denying it for 10 years. They know it's not so, but they've been calling. I don't think they can call it to me anymore. You know, one more. Go ahead, Peter. Let me finish with Peter because he's been better to me than he's been to Biden.
Thank you, President Trump. I have a question about this weekend. Why not stick around for the signing ceremony with this Iran peace deal?
I might.
You might.
Yeah, I might, but I'd rather, this is a memorandum of understanding. It's very important, but it might not be the kind of a document that I should be signing.
There's some element to this where you send the vice president. If it works out, great, you look like a genius for sending him. And if it doesn't work out, it's the vice president's
I like that idea, sure. What? This way, if it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming JD. You better be careful, JD. He's going to turn his plane around and get the hell out of here. Yeah, I like that idea. I think it's a good idea. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Truth gon' be faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny shows the storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.